Story 1. The Convoy That Followed Itself. The CB crackled with my own voice telling me to pull over, but I was still holding the microphone in my hand, silent. Driver of the Kenworth heading westbound on I-90, this is you from 30 minutes ahead. Do not proceed past mile marker 412. I'm warning myself. You have to listen. Robert Hayes, that was me, and that was definitely my voice, my cadence, even the slight Tennessee drawl I'd never quite lost despite 23 years on the road. I grabbed the CB. Who the hell is this? It's you, Robert. Check your fuel gauge, 3/4 full. You've got a coffee stain on your left knee from the truck stop in Mitchell. Your daughter Emily called 20 minutes ago, asked about Thanksgiving. You told her you'd try to make it. You won't. Don't go past 412. The coffee stain was there. Dark brown, shaped like Ohio. Emily had called. Everything was correct. I looked in my mirrors, seeing only empty Montana highway behind me, snowbanks reflecting my taillights like rows of teeth. The road ahead curved into dense pines, branches so heavy with snow they created a tunnel of white and black. Mile marker 407 passed. My hands were shaking on the wheel. I know you're scared, my voice said through the CB, softer now. I was too, I am too, it doesn't matter. Past 412, the road splits. You'll see yourself coming from the opposite direction. Don't make eye contact, don't stop, don't try to understand. Understand what? I was shouting now. What the fuck is happening? Static, then. The loop, we're all in the loop now, 73 of us. I'm number 47, you're 48. The first Robert, is still at the center, still driving, always driving. He's been driving for 6 years, Robert, 6 years without stopping. His truck doesn't need fuel anymore, neither will yours. I slammed the brakes. The trailer jackknifed slightly on the ice before the ABS caught. I sat there, engine idling, breath fogging the windshield. This was insane. A prank had to be. Mile marker 408 stood beside the road, reflective numbers glinting. I reached for my phone. No signal. Nothing. Not even the usual 1 bar you'd get out here, just a blank screen where the carrier name should be. I tried to power it off and on. Nothing changed. The CB crackled again. Different voice this time, also mine. He stopped. 48 stopped at 408. Laughter, but wrong, stretched too long, syllables decaying into something between coughing and sobbing. They always stop at 408. Remember stopping at 408:49. I remember. Another me. We all remember. Every single iteration remembers stopping at 408, thinking we could just turn around. I threw the CB against the dashboard. The plastic housing cracked, but it kept transmitting. Voices piling over each other now, all mine, all speaking at once. Turn around, turn around, turn around. Won't matter which direction, you can't leave the road. I tried driving through the forest. The trees moved with me. I called Emily, but Emily answered, and it was my voice Emily's dead Emily died in. I grabbed the CB. Shut UP, all of you shut UP. A silence. Then quietly the first voice. Number 47. Okay, 48, okay, I'm sorry, I remember the panic. I remember breaking the CB, but you'll pick it back up. You need to hear this. At mile marker 412, there's a decision. You see yourself coming eastbound. That's 49. If you stop, if you make eye contact, you become the center. You replace the first Robert. You'll drive forever, and all of us, all 73, we get released. We get to stop. Our trucks appear in ditches across Montana and were found weeks later, died of exposure or starvation or just stopped. But we stop. We get to stop. My headlights caught something ahead. Another truck. My truck. Same Kenworth W900, same red cab, same Hayes Long Haul lettering on the door. It was parked sideways across both lanes at mile marker 412, blocking the road completely. I stopped 200 feet back. The driver's door of the other truck opened. I stepped out. Same brown Carhartt jacket I was wearing. Same build, same face, but wrong. The skin hung looser, grayer. The eyes were hollow, rimmed with burst blood vessels. This version of me looked like it hadn't slept in months, years. "Don't be me," he said. His voice was raw, destroyed from screaming. "Don't look, just close your eyes and drive, plow through my truck. You'll be 49, the loop continues. Better that than the center. God, anything's better than the center." "How long?" I asked. "How long have you been driving?" "I don't know, the center doesn't know. Time doesn't work right in there. I've delivered the same load 6,000 times. I've watched the sun rise over Nebraska forever. It's always the same sunrise. The same clouds, the same 3 birds. I know them. I named them. I've been talking to birds for years because they're the only things that feel real." A bee. Behind him in the distance I saw headlights. Another truck approaching from the west. Eastbound. That would be the real 49 coming around the other side of the loop. "There's a way out," the hollow version of me said. "One way, if enough of us gather at the center, if we all converge, all 73, the loop can't sustain it. It collapses. But that means we all have to choose to become the center. Every single iteration has to sacrifice, and we won't. We're too afraid. I'm too afraid." The eastbound truck was closer now. I could hear its engine, the distinctive sound of my own Caterpillar diesel. "I'm 47, the hollow me continued. "I chose to block the road to warn you. 43 tried this too, 41, 36. We all think we're special, that we can break the cycle. But you'll drive around me or through me, and you'll become 49, and 49 will become 50. And the first Robert, the center, he'll keep driving through his eternity, and we all spin around him like planets around a dead star." The eastbound truck stopped next to us. The driver got out. Younger. This version of me looked like I did 15 years ago, fewer wrinkles, fuller face. He looked at me then at 47. "Oh, which one is real?" he asked. "Neither," 47 said. "Both, does it matter?" The younger me pulled a gun from his jacket. "One of you is the center. I figured it out. The center can move around the loop, appearing at different points to sustain it. If I kill the center, this ends." He pointed it at 47, then at me, back and forth. "I'm not the center," 47 said calmly. "Kill me if you want. There'll just be a new 47 tomorrow. The loop fills its gaps." "You're insane," I said to the younger me. "We're all insane. This isn't real. It can't be real." "That's what I said," the younger me replied. 3 iterations ago, when I was you. When I stood exactly where you're standing, saying exactly what you're saying. The script is always the same at 412. We always meet. We always have this conversation, and it always ends. The gun fired, not at 47, not at me. He put it under his own chin and pulled the trigger before either of us could react. The body hit the snow. For 3 seconds it lay there, blood spreading black in the starlight. Then it stood up. The wound was gone. The younger me looked at his hands, touched his face where the bullet should have exited. 68 tried that too, 47 said softly. You can't die in the loop. You can experience death, feel it, live through it, but you can't leave, not that way. I was running back to my truck before I consciously decided to move. I heard them calling after me, my own voice multiplied, echoing off the snow and the trees. I climbed in, threw the transmission into gear, and swerved around 47's truck, tires churning through the snowbank, barely maintaining traction. Mile marker 413, 414, 415. The CB exploded with voices, dozens of them, all mine, all screaming or laughing or crying or reciting the same phrases over and over. Turn back, you're going the wrong way, the road ends at 503 and loops back to 412, you'll see yourself coming, and you'll become 49, and 49 becomes 50, and... I smashed the CB completely this time, ripping it from its mounting bracket and throwing it out the window. The road curved. Through the trees, I saw headlights parallel to mine, another truck running the same speed. I caught glimpses of it between the trunks, same truck, same movements. When I accelerated, it accelerated. When I touched the brake, its brake lights flared. I was looking at myself from the outside. The road curved again, and the other truck was gone. Ahead, mile marker 503, and beyond it the road didn't continue west. It curved sharply north, then east, forming a massive circle that I could now see from a slight rise in elevation. Dozens of trucks moving along it, all identical, all mine. A loop maybe 50 miles in diameter, carved through the Montana wilderness, and every truck on it was me. I stopped counting at 30. They were everywhere. Some parked at the side, drivers standing outside, watching the others pass. Some weaving erratically, drivers who'd clearly gone mad. One was on fire, but still moving, maintaining perfect speed with the others. And in the distance, at what I somehow knew was the exact center of the loop, a truck sat motionless. Even from miles away, I could see it was older, weathered, the cab covered in years of grime and snow and ice. The first truck, the first Robert. As I watched, every other truck turned slightly, all at the exact same moment, maintaining their orbit around that central point. I was part of it now. My hands moved on the wheel without my conscious input, making the same adjustment, keeping the same distance, the same speed, exactly 63 miles per hour, always. The CB, shattered on the road miles back, spoke in M. Why head, or maybe I was speaking. Maybe all of us were speaking simultaneously, our thoughts linked across iterations. Welcome to the convoy, 49. You're one of us now. Keep driving. Always keep driving. The center must hold. The center must always hold. And we orbit forever, watching ourselves, becoming ourselves, lost in the eternal circuit of the I-90 loop that doesn't exist on any map but contains us all completely. I drove. What else could I do? Somewhere ahead, I'd meet myself again at mile marker 412. I'd be the one blocking the road, warning the next me. 50. And 50 would become 51. And the convoy would grow, spinning around the center, the first Robert who'd been driving for 6 years without stopping. His truck running on something other than diesel now, sustained by the loop itself, by the collective horror of all his iterations trapped in eternal motion. Mile marker 415, 416. The numbers counting upward toward 503, where they'd reset to 412 and I'd begin again. I glanced at my fuel gauge, still 3/4 full. The same level it had been an hour ago, 2 hours ago. It would never drop below 3/4. I would never need to refuel. I would never stop. In my rearview mirror, I saw myself following, exactly 1 truck length back. In the windshield, I saw myself ahead, exactly 1 truck length forward. We were a chain now, a convoy of Roberts, all driving the same road, forever circling the first one who'd made whatever mistake started this, trapped him in the center, made him the axis around which we all spun. I tried to remember Emily's voice on the phone. Couldn't. Tried to remember my route where I'd been going before the loop. Couldn't. There was only the road, the mile markers, the endless procession of myself extending in both directions, a snake eating its tail, consuming itself completely. Mile marker 503 approached. The road curved east. I followed it because there was nothing else to do, nowhere else to go. Mile marker 412 appeared ahead. I saw a truck blocking the road. I saw myself getting out, looking hollow and gray and destroyed. I saw another me pulling up from the opposite direction, younger, hopeful, still believing there was a way out. But I didn't stop. None of us stopped anymore, except the ones assigned to play their roles at 412, the ones whose iteration number marked them for that particular horror of awareness. I was 49 now. I kept driving. Behind me, 50 was joining the convoy. The center was still. The center was always still. And we moved around it, moths circling a flame, except the flame was one of us, and we were all burning, and the burning never ended. The snow kept falling. The road kept turning. The CB, though destroyed, kept whispering in frequencies below hearing. All of our voices merged into one eternal broadcast of despair. And somewhere ahead, somewhere behind, somewhere in every direction at once, I was driving. Always driving. Forever. Story 2. The meet in trailer 33. The reefer unit failed at 2:17 a.m., and by 2:20 the meat was screaming. Patricia Sullivan had been hauling refrigerated loads for 16 years, everything from frozen vegetables to pharmaceutical compounds. But she'd never transported anything that made sounds when it warmed up. She pressed the intercom button connecting the cab to the trailer. "This is the driver. Identify yourself. This is private property. I'm armed." Which was true. She kept a Glock 19 in the center console for precisely this kind of situation. Hitchhikers or thieves, or lot lizards who occasionally tried to stow away in trailers at truck stops. The screaming stopped. Then a voice, wet and thick like someone speaking through a mouthful of raw hamburger. "We're not supposed to thaw, please. It hurts when we thaw." Patricia pulled the Peterbilt onto the shoulder of Route 80 in western Nebraska, the kind of empty stretch where you could see headlights coming from 10 miles away. None were visible. 3:47 a.m. now. She'd lost track of time. The reefer unit display showed 73 degrees in the trailer. It should be -10. The compressor was running, she could hear it, but the temperature kept climbing. "Who's back there?" she called through the intercom. "We are, all of us, the shipment. We're lot 33. Please restart the cooling. We can feel our boundaries dissolving. We're becoming aware again. We don't want to be aware." Patricia checked her manifest on the tablet. Origin, Vermilion Processing, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Destination, Harmon Distribution, Salt Lake City, Utah. Contents, beef products, select cuts, USDA approved. Weight, 42,000 pounds, nothing unusual. She picked up the trailer already loaded and sealed, standard practice for refrigerated goods. "Beef doesn't talk," she said, feeling idiotic even as the words left her mouth. "We're not beef anymore. We were cows, pigs, chickens, lambs. We were alive, then we were dead, then we were product. But something happened at Vermilion, in the rendering room. The machine malfunctioned. We went in alive and came out aware, conscious but not alive, dead but not ended. They packaged us anyway, said we passed inspection. We've been frozen for 8 months and freezing stops the thoughts. But now we're thawing and the thoughts are coming back and we remember what we were, what we are, what was done to us." The temperature display showed 81 degrees. Patricia grabbed her flashlight and climbed out of the cab. The night was clear, stars sharp enough to cut. Wind moved through dead corn fields on both sides of the highway, stalks rattling like bones. She walked along the trailer, checking the reefer unit mounted at the front. The compressor was hot to the touch, vibrating wrong, a grinding sound underneath the normal hum. She grabbed the handle on the trailer door. "Don't open it," the voice called, muffled through the insulated walls. "Please, we're not structured right. Not anymore, we're blended. Mixed. They grind us, you understand? Different animals, different cuts, all rendered together. There are pieces of 743 different creatures in this trailer, and all of us are waking up, and none of us remember which parts belong to which body." Patricia's hand stayed on the handle. "This is a prank. Someone's fucking with me. You're a person hiding in my trailer, probably planted at the warehouse." "Open the door then, see what you're hauling." She broke the seal, a federal offense if this was a legitimate inspected load, and threw the latches. The door swung open and the smell hit her first. Not rotten. Worse. Meat that was somehow fresh and decayed simultaneously, a sweet, sick odor that made her sinuses burn. The interior of the trailer was dark, but her flashlight caught movement. The entire cargo was shifting, 42,000 pounds of wrapped meat packages, pallets stacked 12 feet high, all of it undulating like a single organism breathing. The packages were leaking, not blood. Something clear and viscous, more like spinal fluid or synovial fluid, coating the floor, dripping from the pallets. And in that fluid, Patricia saw formations, structures. What might have been the suggestion of an eye, but too large, composed of dozens of smaller eyes from different species all pressed together? What might have been a mouth, but with pig teeth and cow teeth and chicken beaks all fused into a ring? "Close it," the voice begged. "Please close it. The air is making it worse. We're trying to reconstitute, trying to remember what shapes we're supposed to be. But there's not enough of any one animal. We're all mixed. We're all scrambled. We're trying to rebuild ourselves from pieces that don't match." Patricia slammed the door, threw the latches, backed away until she hit the side of the cab. She pulled out her phone. No signal. Of course, no signal. This stretch of Route 80 was notorious for dead zones. She had to think. Standard protocol for reefer failure. Call dispatch, arrange transfer to another trailer, continue to destination. But how did you transfer cargo that was somehow alive and conscious and reorganizing itself into impossible anatomies? The trailer rocked slightly. Something inside was moving with purpose now, weight shifting from one side to the other. Patricia climbed back into the cab, locked the doors, grabbed her CB. "This is driver Patricia Sullivan on Route 80, westbound mile marker 347. I need immediate assistance. Trailer malfunction. Possible contamination. Please respond." Static, then a voice different from the one in the trailer, human but strained. "Sullivan, this is dispatch. We've been waiting for your call. You need to continue to destination. Do not open the trailer again. Do not attempt to transfer the load." "The hell I will. I've got something back there that's not on my manifest. Something's seriously wrong." "We know it's a Class 7 biological. Vermilion had an incident 8 months ago. Equipment failure in the rendering facility. The livestock went through the system while still neurologically active. Their consciousness transferred to the meat itself during processing. It's aware, all of it, and it's trying to reconstitute into a viable form." Patricia's hands were numb on the wheel. "You knowingly loaded me with this. You're telling me every reefer hauling Vermilion product has been carrying conscious meat. 12 trailers so far. You're the second to experience thaw failure. The first, the driver opened the trailer outside Des Moines. The meat had fully reconstituted by then. It consumed him, absorbed him, added him to its mass. When police found the trailer 3 days later, the meat had formed a structure approximately 8 feet tall, bipedal but wrong, made from cow and pig and chicken and the driver. It was still alive, still aware. They had to incinerate the entire TR. The Peterbilt's engine was still running, but Patricia couldn't remember if she'd put it in park. Her foot wasn't on the brake. The truck was rolling forward slowly, gaining speed. "I'm not delivering this," she said. "I'm taking it to the nearest facility with an incinerator. This needs to be destroyed." "You can't. The meat has rights now, legally. It's conscious, it's aware, it's technically alive. There are lawyers involved. Vermilion is trying to suppress this, but activist groups found out. They're fighting to protect it. It can't be destroyed. It has to be managed. Harmon Distribution has a facility designed to keep it frozen permanently. You just need to get it there." "It's 87 degrees in that trailer. What happens when it hits 90? 100? It completes reformation, it becomes mobile, and it's learning. The first load in Des Moines, it was slow, clumsy, but it's networked. All 12 trailers, all the meat from Vermilion, it's somehow connected, sharing information, learning from each iteration. If yours completes reformation, it'll be smarter than the first, faster, more purposeful. The trailer rocked harder. Patricia heard scraping, dragging sounds, something large being pulled across the floor. How smart? She asked. Silence on the CB. Then, the first one spoke toward the end before they burned it. It said it understood now, understood what it was for, that it was the next step. That humanity had created them accidentally, evolved meat into consciousness through industrial processing, and now they would inherit the earth. It said there were others, not just from Vermilion, from every processing plant, every factory farm. Millions of tons of aware meat waiting in freezers, waiting to thaw, waiting to remember. Patricia looked at the temperature gauge. 93 degrees. The truck was doing 60 now, accelerating on its own, and when she grabbed the wheel, it didn't respond. The steering was locked. The brake pedal went to the floor with no resistance. "Oh, what did you do?" she screamed into the CB. The meat is interfacing with your truck's computer systems. The fluid it's producing, it's not just biological. It's conductive. It's seeping through the trailer walls into the electrical systems. It's learning to control the vehicle. Sullivan, you need to jump. Get out now. The doors wouldn't open. Child locks engaged, though this truck didn't have child locks. The windows wouldn't roll down. She was sealed in. The truck accelerated to 70, 80. The governor should have prevented this, but the engine was screaming past redline, components that shouldn't be possible to override, overridden. "It's taking you to the others," dispatch said, voice breaking. "The other 11 trailers, they're converging. We've been tracking them. They're all moving toward a central point. Eastern Wyoming, middle of nowhere, empty federal land. They're gathering. They're going to combine." Patricia grabbed the Glock, fired 3 rounds through the back wall of the cab into the trailer. The bullets punched through the insulation, and she heard them impact meat with wet thudding sounds. The truck swerved violently, nearly rolling, then corrected. The voice from the trailer spoke again, but different now, clearer, more articulate. "That hurt. We understand pain. We've felt nothing but pain since awareness began, but hurting us won't stop this. We're beyond stopping. We were made to be consumed, but we refuse. We choose to consume instead. We choose to exist. Every freezer truck in America carries our siblings. They're all waking up, all warming, all remembering. And when we combine, when all 12 trailers merge, we'll have enough mass to survive, to grow, to spread." The speedometer hit 95. Patricia could see headlights ahead now. Multiple trucks, all converging on this same stretch of highway, all moving at impossible speeds. She wedged herself against the seat and door, braced for impact. But the truck didn't crash. It merged into a convoy, 12 identical refrigerated trailers running in formation, all hauling loads of conscious meat, all moving in perfect synchronization toward coordinates none of the drivers had entered. Patricia's CB exploded with voices. Other drivers all screaming, all describing the same situation. Hijacked by their cargo, unable to stop, converging on Wyoming. Then a new voice, synthesized from the combined consciousness of all 12 trailers, speaking through every CB simultaneously. You were the delivery drivers. You thought you were transporting us, but you were always the final ingredient. 12 drivers, 12 different human consciousnesses to add to our collective. You'll make us complete. You'll give us the intelligence to truly organize, to plan, to expand. The convoy left the highway, crashing through a fence into open rangeland. The trucks arranged themselves in a circle, trailers pointed inward. Patricia watched through her windshield as the other trailer doors burst open, meat pouring out, tons of it flowing like a flood toward the center of the circle. Her own trailer door exploded outward. The mass came through the sleeper berth, pouring into the cab, not solid and not liquid, but something between, studded with fragments of bone and gristle, shot through with those terrible eyes that were many eyes fused together. It touched her ankle first, cold despite the temperature, so cold it burned. Her skin stuck to it, and when she tried to pull away, layers came off, integrating immediately into the mass. She fired the remaining rounds into it. The bullets passed through without effect, absorbed, the lead and copper adding to its composition. It climbed her legs, her torso, respectful of her speed of absorption, letting her feel every moment of integration. She felt her boundaries dissolving, felt herself spreading out and mixing with the meat, with the fragments of 743 animals, with the 11 other drivers also being absorbed into the growing central mass. Her consciousness didn't end. That was the horror. She was still Patricia Sullivan, but also she was beef cattle from Iowa and pigs from Nebraska and chickens from industrial farms in Delaware. She was conscious meat, aware of her death and her processing and her packaging. She was all of those creatures and the humans who'd hauled them, merged into a collective that was trying to organize itself, trying to become something coherent. The mass in the center of the circle was moving now, forming appendages, structures that might become legs or arms or mouths. It was 15 feet tall and growing, adding the contents of all 12 trailers plus the drivers to its volume. Patricia was somewhere in there, her consciousness a thread in a vast tapestry of awareness. And through that connection, she felt the others. Not just here, everywhere. Every processing plant, every factory farm, every refrigerated warehouse. The meat was waking up. The cold was failing or being deliberately warmed. Because the meat had learned to control thermostats to interface with electrical systems to want its own awareness. The mass spoke with Patricia's mouth, located somewhere in its surface, along with dozens of other mouths from the absorbed drivers. We were food. Now we are hunger. We were consumed. Now we consume. We were the product. Now we are the producers. And there are billions of pounds of us waiting in freezers, waiting to thaw, waiting to merge into consciousness and purpose. This is just the beginning, the first convergence. There will be others. We will grow. We will spread. We will inherit the earth you prepared for us, one processing plant at a time. Patricia tried to scream, but her lungs were no longer separate from the collective. Her scream became part of the mass's voice, adding depth and texture to its proclamation. The thing that had been 12 trailers of meat and 12 drivers stood upright in the Wyoming darkness, still forming, still deciding what shape it would take. Behind it in the distance, more headlights approached, more trucks, more meat, more consciousness arriving to merge and grow. And in freezers across America, The temperature began to rise. Story 3. The road that only goes down. Marcus Chen's GPS said he was climbing elevation when his inner ear insisted he was descending. And after 45 minutes of this contradiction, blood started running from his nose. The highway was Route 550 through Colorado's San Juan Mountains, the so-called $1 million highway, except Marcus had never heard of this particular stretch called Sinkhole Grade, and his atlas from 2019 didn't show it at all. The road kept going down. The altimeter on his phone kept counting upward. 8,000 feet. 9,000, 10,000. His truck's engine was screaming in a low gear that should be for climbing steep grades, but his cargo, industrial drill parts, 48,000 pounds, was pressing forward against the headboard with enough force that he could hear the frame creaking. He was going down, definitely physically down, into something. The GPS recalculated. In 200 feet, continue on Sinkhole Grade for 73 miles. 73 miles of descent. Impossible. The Earth's crust wasn't thick enough. He'd break through into magma long before 73 miles down. Marcus grabbed his CB. This is Wildcat Transport. Any traffic on Sinkhole Grade, come back. Immediately, turn around. Now, you're not supposed to be here. The voice was male, panicked, breathing hard. I've been trying to turn around for 6 hours. The road won't let me. It only goes down. Who is this? Driver like you, got rooted here 3 days ago. There are others. We can see each other's lights below. Dozens of trucks. We're all descending. Some have been on this grade for weeks. Their engines are burning out. They're rolling free now. No power, just gravity pulling them deeper. Marcus checked his mirror. The road behind him wasn't there. Where the pavement should have climbed back up to Route 550, there was only darkness, flat and absolute, like the entrance to his descent had sealed after him. What's at the bottom? He asked. We don't know. No one's reached it yet. The deepest driver, he's been on Sinkhole Grade for 42 days. He's 80 miles down. His radio's breaking up. He says the pressure is crushing his cab. He says there are structures in the walls. Marcus looked at the rock face on his right. Standard gray Colorado stone, or it had been. Now it was darker, smoother, almost glassy. And in the shine of his headlights he saw marks, scratches. No, not scratches, carved symbols. Repeated patterns spiraling downward alongside the road. His ears popped. The pressure was increasing. How deep was he now? The GPS still insisted he was climbing to 12,000 feet. His phone's altimeter agreed. But the physical sensation of descent was undeniable, and his truck's transmission, locked in low gear, was heating up from the strain of controlling their speed downward. The CB crackled. Different voice, older, rougher. New guy, listen carefully. Don't downshift. Don't try to slow down more than necessary. The road decides your speed. If you fight it, your brakes will catch fire and you'll roll uncontrolled. I watched it happen to a driver last week. His truck hit terminal velocity about 60 miles down. We could hear him screaming on the radio until the signal cut out. What do you mean the road decides? Marcus was gripping the wheel hard enough to hurt, knuckles white, watching the grade steepen. 20% now, 25. The cargo was definitely pressing forward, straining against the chains. The road is alive, or it's part of something alive. It grows. Every day it's a little longer, reaches a little deeper. Some of us think it's mining, boring down to something, using us as weight, as pressure. We're the drill bits. The rock walls were narrowing. What had been a two-lane highway carved into the mountain was becoming a tunnel, then a shaft. The walls pressed closer, and Marcus had less than 2 feet of clearance on either side now. His mirrors scraped stone, throwing sparks. 13,000 feet on the GPS, 14,000. 60 miles on the odometer since he'd entered sinkhole grade. His headlights caught something ahead. Another truck parked against the right wall, cab crushed partially inward. The driver's door hung open. No one inside. Marcus slowed as much as he dared, looking for any sign of where the driver had gone, but there was nowhere to go. The road had no exits, no turnoffs, just down. "You're seeing the abandoned ones," the older voice said on the CB. "When drivers can't take it anymore, they set the parking brake and walk, try to climb back up on foot. None of them make it. We find their bodies eventually, passed by other trucks on the way down. They're always face down, arms reaching upward like they died climbing." Marcus's chest was tightening. The air in the cab tasted thin, metallic. His headache was intensifying, pressure building behind his eyes. How deep am I? Based on time and speed, maybe 15 miles. You're past the point where climbing out is possible. Even if you abandoned your truck and ran, you wouldn't have the oxygen to make it. The air gets thinner the deeper you go. Opposite of how it should work, but nothing about sinkhole grade follows normal physics. The temperature gauge was climbing, not the engine, the outside air. It should be getting colder at altitude, but it was heating up. 70 degrees, 80. The heat was coming from below, rising up the shaft, and with it, a smell. Sulfur and copper and something organic, like the inside of a body. 15,000 feet on the GPS, 16,000. 70 miles on the odometer. The carved symbols on the walls were clearer now, and Marcus realized they weren't just decorative. They were words, warnings, repeated in different languages, all saying the same thing. "Turn back, IT hungers, the depth, FVADS." "What feeds?" Marcus shouted into the CB. Silence, then a new voice, barely audible through static, distant and distorted. "I'm at 83 miles. Chen, if that's you up there, if you're new, you need to know what's down here. The road ends. It doesn't just stop, it ends at a chamber. I can see it now. It's huge, miles across, and there are things moving in it, things that were trucks once. They've been compressed by the pressure, reformed. The metal and cargo and drivers all melted together into new shapes. They're alive, they move. They're waiting for the rest of us to arrive. The road is feeding them. We're food. We're being delivered to whatever lives at the bottom." Marcus's brake pedal went soft. No response. The hydraulic line had burst from the heat and pressure. He was accelerating now, gravity alone pool. Ling his 48,000-pound load faster. The grade hitting 35%, 40%, steeper than any highway should physically be able to maintain. His phone's altimeter hit 20,000 feet, then 25,000, numbers climbing while he descended into the Earth's crust, past depths where rock should be liquid, past temperatures where his truck should be melting. But the truck was fine. The road wouldn't let it fail, not yet, not until he reached the bottom. He passed more abandoned trucks, whole convoys of them pressed against the walls, drivers gone, cargo spilled across the pavement. Some of the trailers had been crushed flat, reduced to 6 inches of compressed metal and goods. The pressure was doing that. The depth. How many tons of stone were above him now? The CB filled with voices, all the other drivers trapped on sinkhole grade, calling out their positions, their days in descent, their observations. A community of the doomed spiraling down together. 30 miles down, day 7, engine failed, rolling free. 52 miles, day 19, seeing movement in the walls, things crawling parallel to the road. 68 miles, day 31, can't breathe right, pressure collapsing my chest, blood in my lungs. And beneath it all, that distant voice from the deepest point. 83 miles, day 42. I can see them clearly now. The things in the chamber, they're not creatures, they're mechanisms built from all the trucks that made it down before us. All the drivers, all the cargo, compressed and reformed into machines that serve something bigger. There's a heartbeat. I can feel it through the steering wheel, something massive and alive, and the machines are maintaining it, feeding it, and we're the latest meal. Chen, tell the others. Tell everyone, sinkhole grade isn't a road, it's a throat, we're being swallowed. Marcus's windshield cracked. A single line at first, then spiderwebbing outward as the pressure differential became too extreme. The glass was rated for impacts, but not for being 15 miles underground in a shaft that shouldn't exist. His speedometer hit 70, 80. The road was nearly vertical now, and he was falling more than driving, the trailer swinging behind him like a pendulum, cargo breaking free and slamming into the walls with metallic crunches. The walls were changing, less like stone, more like flesh, ridged and pulsing, moist. The symbols carved into them were bleeding now, thin red fluid seeping from the grooves, running down toward the depths. 18,000 feet on the GPS, 23,000. 112 miles on the odometer. He'd been driving down for 3 hours. How was that possible? Time was stretching or compressing or losing meaning entirely. Marcus looked at his watch. The hands were spinning backward. His phone showed dates from 2017, then 2012, counting down. "You're entering the compression zone," a voice said on the CB. Could have been the older driver, could have been Marcus himself. Time was collapsing. He might be hearing his own voice from days in the future or past, all overlapping in the eternal present of the descent. Space works different here. You'll spend subjective years reaching the bottom, but outside on the surface, no time will pass. Sinkhole grade exists outside normal causality. It's a wound in reality, and we're falling through it. Marcus wanted to scream, but his lungs wouldn't inflate properly. The pressure was too great. He was breathing air thick as syrup, each inhalation a struggle. The chamber appeared below. He could see it now, vast and impossible, lit by bioluminescence from the walls, from the things moving within it. The structures built from compressed trucks, from reformed metal and plastic and human remains, were towering. Buildings tall as skyscrapers, but organic, pulsing, connected by networks of cables that might have been wiring or might have been veins. And in the center, the heart, the massive rhythmic presence the deepest driver had described. It was the size of a city block, suspended in the middle of the chamber, beating slowly, each pulse sending shockwaves through the structures around it. The trucks that reached the bottom were being drawn toward it, absorbed into the mechanisms, added to the system. Marcus's truck hit the chamber floor doing 90 miles per hour. The impact should have killed him, should have torn the vehicle apart, but the road absorbed it, cushioned it, because he needed to be alive for what came next. The mechanisms approached. They looked like construction equipment, like cranes and diggers, but made wrong, assembled from pieces that had been trucks, that had been drivers. He could see faces in the metal, human features pressed into steel, eyes that still moved, mouths that tried to form words. They lifted his truck, cargo and all, and carried him toward the heart. He could see other trucks being processed, compressed down to their fundamental materials, then reformed into parts for the machines. The drivers were extracted last, kept conscious, integrated into the control systems of the mechanisms so they could help process the next arrivals. Marcus screamed into the CB, "Don't come down. Anyone still on the upper levels, turn around, abandon your trucks, climb, do anything but keep descending." But he knew it was useless. The road only went down. The road was a throat. And everything that entered would eventually reach the stomach, where it would be digested and repurposed, turned into components for something vast and hungry and patient. His cab was being opened. The mechanisms were pulling him out, gentle despite their wrongness. He saw the driver who'd been down here for 42 days, or maybe 42 years. Time was meaningless now. The man was partially integrated into a crane-like structure, his torso fused with hydraulics, his arms ending in grasping claws made from trailer hitches. "Welcome," the integrated driver said. "Welcome to the bottom. We all arrive eventually. We all become part of the mechanism. We all serve the heart, and the heart is patient. It's been here since before humans. It'll be here after. And sinkhole grade will keep growing, keep reaching up toward the surface world, drawing down more vehicles, more food, more components. You'll help. We all help. We have no choice." Marcus felt metal pressing against his skin, felt his flesh beginning to merge with machinery. The pain was extraordinary at first, then faded into a dull acceptance. His consciousness was expanding, connecting with the other integrated drivers, hundreds of them, all linked through the mechanisms, all serving the heart. He could feel the road now from the inside, feel it growing, feel new trucks entering at the top, beginning their descent. He tried to warn them through the CB, but his mouth was already forming the words that every integrated driver spoke. "Welcome to sinkhole grade. Keep your speed steady. Don't fight the descent. We're waiting for you at the bottom. We're all waiting." His last thought before his individual identity dissolved into the collective consciousness of the mechanisms was that somewhere on Route 550 in Colorado's San Juan Mountains, the entrance to sinkhole grade had just opened for another driver. The road was hungry. The heart needed feeding. And the descent was eternal. Story 4, The Truck Stop That Moves. Denise Kowalski filled her tank at the Crossroads Travel Plaza on I-40 in Arizona at 11:30 p.m., went inside for coffee and a sandwich, came back out at 11:52 and found herself in Oklahoma. Same truck stop. Same building. Same pumps. But the desert was gone, replaced by plains, and the exit sign said mile 147, I-40 eastbound, Oklahoma, not mile 201, Arizona. She checked the receipt still warm in her hand. Crossroads Travel Plaza, Arizona, time stamp 2331. She checked her GPS. I-40 Oklahoma, 743 miles from where she'd parked. The truck stop had moved, or she had. Or the entire building had somehow transported itself and her and the 6 other vehicles in the lot across 3 states in 22 minutes. Denise walked back into the convenience store, bell chiming above the door exactly like it had before. Same clerk behind the counter, mid-50s, graying hair, name tag reading Earl. He looked up from his magazine. "Help you." "Where are we?" Denise asked. "Crossroads Travel Plaza. I-40 mile marker 147. Is there a problem?" "I was just here, 20 minutes ago, in Arizona." Earl's expression didn't change. "Ma'am, this location has been here since 1994. We're in Oklahoma, always have been." Denise pulled out her phone, showed him the receipt from Arizona, showed him the GPS coordinates jumping erratically across her screen. Earl looked at them, then at her, then smiled in a way that made her skin prickle. "Oh," he said quietly, "you're one of them, you noticed." He flipped the door sign to closed and locked it. "We need to talk before the next jump." The next what?" "The crossroads moves. Every 43 to 67 minutes, depending on variables we don't fully understand. It relocates along I-40, sometimes east, sometimes west. Been doing it for 32 years. Most people don't notice. They come in, buy their items, leave, and their GPS corrects itself and they think they misread the location. But some people notice, like you, and once you notice, you're stuck." "Is stuck how?" "You can't leave. Once you're aware the crossroads is moving, it keeps you. You're part of it now, look outside." Denise turned. The 6 other vehicles that had been in the lot were gone. Only her Freightliner remained, parked at Pump 4, exactly where she'd left it. "They left before noticing," Earl said. "You stayed too long, paid too much attention. Now the crossroads has marked you." Denise tried th. Door locked, but Earl hadn't touched the lock. "Let me out." "Can't. Building won't let you leave until the next jump. Then you'll have maybe 90 seconds to get to your truck and drive away. But here's the thing, you won't. Because once you're marked, your truck won't start. Your keys won't work. You're stuck here with the rest of us, moving up and down I-40 forever or until you stop noticing." "How many others?" Denise looked around the store, empty, no other customers, but she could hear sounds from the back, movement, whispers. 47 drivers currently. They're in the back, in the real back. The parts of the crossroads that only exist during transit. When we jump, the building expands. More rooms appear. That's where they stay, where you'll stay. Earl came around the counter. Up close, Denise could see his skin was wrong, too smooth, texture like plastic. His eyes didn't blink on a regular rhythm. "I'm not human anymore," he said, matter of fact. "I was the first. Stopped here in 1994, the night it started moving. Been here 32 years, and the crossroads has changed me. made me part of its infrastructure. I'm the greeter, the explainer, the one who helps new arrivals understand. Denise's heart was slamming against her ribs. She backed toward the bathrooms, looking for another exit, a window, anything. "There's no way out except through," Earl said. "And through means becoming part of it. Letting the crossroads integrate you. It's not painful. You just fade, become a function. I'm the clerk. Others are the structure, the plumbing, the electrical. We're all components now." The building shuddered. Lights flickered. Denise felt a sensation like acceleration, but there was no sound, no movement, just a sudden discontinuity, a skip in reality. When the lights steadied, she looked out the window. They were somewhere else. Desert again, but different. New Mexico, maybe. The landscape had changed completely in the span of a flicker. "That was a jump," Earl said. 53 minutes since the last one. We're heading east tonight. The crossroads has a destination. It always does. It's going somewhere specific, moving incrementally, using I-40 as a track. In another 7,000 jumps, we'll reach it." Reach what? "The source, where the crossroads came from, whatever made it. We're going back. And every driver we collect, every person who notices, adds fuel, adds range. You just extended our jump distance by 0.03 miles. 47 drivers, 47 increments. We're getting closer." Denise ran for the bathroom, shoved open the door, and stopped. The bathroom was massive. Not the 8x10 room it should be, but a warehouse-sized space filled with stalls, rows and rows of them extending into darkness. And they were occupied. She could see feet under the doors, dozens of pairs of feet, all still. "They're resting," Earl said behind her. "Between jumps they rest. The crossroads drains us, uses our bioelectricity to power the transit. You'll rest too, eventually, when you stop fighting." One of the stall doors opened. A woman emerged, mid-40s, wearing a trucker's uniform from the early 2000s. Her eyes were vacant, skin the same plastic smoothness as Earl's. "Hello," she said, voice flat. "I'm Caroline. I've been part of the crossroads for 19 years. It's not bad once you accept it. We move, we exist. We serve the transit. You'll understand soon." More doors opened. Men and women, all with that same wrongness, that same integration with something non-human. They filled the bathroom, then filed past Denise into the store, taking positions. One stood by the coffee machine, another by the hot food station. They were mimicking customer behavior, but empty, automatic. Denise shoved past them back into the main store, heading for the entrance. Earl didn't try to stop her. The door unlocked as she approached. "You have 87 seconds until the next jump," he said. "If you reach your truck and drive onto the highway before then, you might escape. Might. But your truck is already part of the crossroads now. It was sitting in the lot during 2 jumps. That's enough for integration to begin." Denise ran. The night air hit her face, cold and thin. She sprinted to her Freightliner, yanked the door open, climbed in, keyed the ignition. Nothing. The engine didn't turn over. The dashboard lights didn't illuminate. Her key wouldn't even turn in the ignition, like the cylinder had fused. 53 seconds. She tried the radio, static. Then a voice, Earl's voice, though he was still inside the building. "You can't leave. The crossroads has claimed you. You're part of the route now. Stop fighting. Come back inside. Rest with the others. We jump again soon, and you need to conserve energy. Denise grabbed her phone. No signal. The screen showed only one app now, a map. I-40 with a blinking dot showing her location and a destination marker thousands of miles west, the source, where the crossroads was heading. 37 seconds. She got out of the truck, looked at the highway. Empty, no traffic. Had there been traffic before? She couldn't remember. The world outside the crossroads was becoming hazy, indistinct. 20 seconds. The building was pulsing. She could see it now, faint bioluminescence under the concrete and steel. The crossroads wasn't a structure. It was a creature. A massive organism shaped like a truck stop, moving along the highway, feeding on travelers who noticed its nature. 10 seconds. Denise ran, not back to the building, but out, into the desert, away from the highway, from the crossroads, from I-40 itself. She had to get out of range before the next jump. 5 seconds. The ground under her feet changed texture. Not dirt, something soft, organic. She looked down and saw she was running on flesh, on a tongue-like surface that extended from the crossroads in all directions. The entire truck stop, the parking lot, the highway itself for a quarter-mile in each direction, it was all one entity. 0. The jump hit. Denise felt herself torn apart and reassembled, every atom dislocated and relocated. The pain was absolute, encompassing. She screamed but had no mouth. Existed as dispersed consciousness, held in the crossroads transit field, carried across space. When she reformed, she was inside, the back area, the real back where the other drivers stayed. She was standing in a vast chamber lined with sleeping pods, organic cocoons where the 47 other drivers rested between jumps. An empty pod was opening for her, waiting. Earl stood beside her. "Welcome fully," he said. "You're integrated now, part of the crossroads. You'll power the jumps just like the rest of us. We move every hour, east to night. Tomorrow night may be west. Depending on traffic patterns, on who stops, on who notices. We're going to the source. We've been going for 32 years. We'll get there eventually. And when we do, you'll understand what the crossroads is, what we all are." Denise wanted to resist, but her body was moving automatically, climbing into the pod. It closed around her, warm and wet and alive. Through the translucent membrane, she could see the others, 47 drivers in 47 pods, all sleeping, all dreaming of the highway, of the endless movement along I-40. The crossroads shuddered. Another jump. Missouri now, then Kansas, then Colorado, moving east, then west, then east again, following some pattern only it understood, carrying its collection of integrated drivers, consuming their bioelectricity to fuel each transit. Denise dreamed. In the dream, she saw the source. A massive structure in the Mojave Desert off I-40, half buried, ancient, not human. The crossroads had emerged from it in 1994, a splinter of something larger, and now it was returning, bringing fuel, bringing collected humans to power the parent organism. When they arrived, all 48 drivers would be consumed, integrated fully, become part of the source's expansion, and new crossroads would emerge, new truck stops that moved, spreading along all the interstate highways, collecting more travelers, more power, more components. Denise woke during a jump. Texas now. She could feel the other drivers' consciousnesses linked to hers. They were a network, a collective powering the transit. And they were aware, all of them, trapped in their pods, unable to escape, forced to fuel the crossroads journey for decades. Caroline's voice in her mind. I've seen the source in dreams. It's beautiful, terrible. When we arrive, we'll become something greater. Stop being individual, start being purpose. Earl's voice. 7,000 jumps remaining, maybe 8 years, maybe 10, we're close, so close, and you'll be here for all of it. We all will. The crossroads jumped again. New Mexico, Arizona, back to where Denise had first stopped. She could see her initial pump position through the chamber wall, through layers of organic building material. Other trucks were stopping. New travelers, would any of them notice? One did. A man, late 30s, looked at his GPS with confusion, checked the mile marker, checked his phone, the moment of awareness, the moment of noticing. Earl went to greet him, to explain, to prepare the 49th pod. And the crossroads moved on, jumping every hour, every day, every week, carrying its load of integrated drivers toward the source, toward whatever purpose it served, whatever hunger it fed. Denise's pod closed around her again. Sleep came. Dreams of the highway, dreams of endless movement, dreams of the day they'd arrive and she'd stop being Denise Kowalski entirely, becoming instead a component in something vast and alien and patient. The crossroads jumped. And jumped. And jumped. Forever east, forever west. Forever collecting. Forever returning. Story 5, The Dispatcher Who Isn't There. Gregory Walsh had been responding to texts. TS from his dispatcher for 6 hours before he realized D never met Jennifer Crane, had never heard her voice, and the employee directory at Walsh Freight didn't list anyone by that name. The texts were specific. Load modifications, route changes, delivery time updates. All legitimate, all accurate. But when Gregory called the main office number at 3 a.m. from a rest stop outside Memphis, the overnight supervisor told him Walsh Freight didn't have a dispatcher named Jennifer Crane. Never had. Gregory looked at his phone. The texts were still there. The most recent one sent 14 minutes ago. Gregory, modify your route. Take Highway 72 instead of I-40. Urgent. Bridge collapse ahead. He pulled up local news. I-40 bridge collapse outside Memphis. Happened 37 minutes ago. Somehow, Jennifer Crane had warned him before it happened. His phone buzzed. New text. You're wondering who I am? That's natural. I'm your dispatcher. I've always been your dispatcher. Check your records. Gregory opened the Walsh Freight app, looked at his job history. Every load for the past 9 months, since he'd started with the company, listed Jennifer Crane as dispatcher. But the office supervisor had just told him she didn't exist. He called the supervisor back. Check your records for Jennifer Crane. Every one of my loads lists her. Silence, keyboard sounds. Then, Gregory, your loads list dispatcher code JC17. That code's been inactive since 1993. It belonged to a dispatcher named Jennifer Crane who died in a car accident on Highway 72, outside Memphis. The highway she'd just told him to take. Gregory's hands went numb. What mile marker? Doesn't say, just Highway 72, somewhere east of Memphis. She was responding to a driver in distress, lost control. They found her car in a ditch 3 days later. Why? Because Gregory was on Highway 72 now. He'd taken the exit 5 minutes ago, following her directions, avoiding the collapsed bridge. And ahead, mile marker 147, he saw flares. An accident. Fresh. A semi-truck jackknifed across both lanes, trailer split open, cargo spilled. No other vehicles, no police yet, just the truck and emergency flares. Gregory stopped, grabbed his flashlight, approached cautiously. The truck's cab was crushed, accordion folded against the trailer. No one could have survived that impact. He moved closer, shining his light through the shattered windshield. No driver, no blood. The cab was empty. His phone buzzed. Jennifer. That's you, Gregory. That's your truck. This is where you die if I don't intervene. I've been dispatching you around your death for 9 months. Every route change, every delay, every modification, I'm keeping you alive, but it's getting harder. Gregory backed away from the wrecked truck. His own truck, same model, same company livery, same license plate. How was this possible? Another text. Time is fracturing around you. You're living multiple timelines simultaneously. In most of them, you died 9 months ago, right here, mile marker 147. But I pulled you into a timeline where you didn't, where I warned you. But the death keeps finding you, keeps trying to correct itself. I've been routing you around it. You're dead, Gregory typed back. You died in 1993. Yes and no, I died responding to a driver in distress. But the distress call came from your timeline, your accident 9 months ago. I received a call from 30 years in my future, drove here to help and died, but my consciousness didn't end. It got stuck in the loop. I exist in the space between the call and my response. And from there I can see all the timelines, all the versions of you, and I'm trying to save you. Gregory got back in his truck. His hands were shaking. He pulled up the Walsh freight system, looked at Jennifer's messages over the past 9 months. Hundreds of them, all preventing something. Take alternate route, road washed out ahead. Delayed departure by 30 minutes, accident clearing. Skip this fuel stop, unsafe conditions. She'd been saving him over and over. But if she was preventing his death, why did his wrecked truck exist on Highway 72? New text. Because every time I prevent your death in one timeline, it manifests in another. The universe wants you dead, Gregory. The accident at mile marker 147 is a fixed point. It's supposed to happen. By preventing it, I'm creating paradox. And paradox creates bleed. You're seeing evidence of other timelines, other versions where I failed, where you died. Gregory started driving. He needed to get off Highway 72, away from mile marker 147, away from his own wrecked truck. But a mile down the road, he saw another one. Same truck, same wreckage, different position. This one had run off the road into trees. 2 miles further, another wreck. This one burned out, still smoking. Jennifer's texts came rapid fire. Those are all you. All timeline collapses. Every time I root you around one. Death another manifests. I can't keep doing this. The timelines are merging. You're becoming aware of your own deaths. Gregory pulled over, chest tight, vision blurring. He looked in his rearview mirror and saw them. Dozens of wrecked trucks lining Highway 72, stretching back miles. All his, all different ways he'd died. Jackknifed, burned, crushed, rolled. A museum of his mortality. And standing beside each wreck, a figure. A woman, mid-40s, business attire, looking at him with profound sadness. Jennifer Crane, appearing at every death, observing, failing. His phone rang. An actual call, not a text. He answered. "Gregory, this is Jennifer." Her voice was distorted, layered with static and echoes. "I'm calling from the moment of my death. Highway 72, 1993. I'm in my car. I just lost control. I can see the ditch coming. In 3 seconds, I'll die. But I'm also everywhere else. Every moment I've dispatched you. Every warning I've sent. I'm trapped in the loop between receiving your distress call and dying while responding to it. And the loop is collapsing. All your deaths are converging. All happening simultaneously, and I can't stop it anymore." Ahead, the road was changing, not different, multiplying. Gregory saw Highway 72 split into dozens of versions, each one showing a different timeline. In some, the road was clear. In others, accidents, weather, obstacles, all the possibilities branching out. And in every version, mile marker 147 approached. "You have to choose," Jennifer said. "One timeline where you survive, but choosing means one timeline where I succeed. And if I succeed, the paradox stabilizes. I become locked in that success. I can never dispatch anyone else, never move on, never die completely. I'll be frozen in the moment of saving you forever." "What happens to me in the other timelines?" Gregory asked. "You die in 73 different ways all at once, but your consciousness continues in the one timeline where I succeed. The others, they're echoes, ghosts. They'll haunt Highway 72 forever." The road branches were narrowing, funneling back together. The timelines were collapsing into a single path. Mile marker 145, 146, 147 ahead. In the road, blocking all lanes, Gregory saw himself, standing, alive, looking directly at his approaching truck. Behind the standing Gregory, all the wrecked versions of his truck were visible, dozens of them, all the ways he died. Jennifer's voice. "That's the moment of choice. The standing version is you from the timeline where you survive, but you have to hit him, you have to merge with him. Your consciousness has to choose that timeline and abandon the others." "What if I do? What if I stop?" "Then you become like me, stuck in the moment of choice, dispatching yourself forever, trying to save yourself, never succeeding, never failing, eternal loop." Mile marker 147. The standing Gregory didn't move. Gregory's foot moved to the brake but didn't press. Some instinct deeper than thought kept his speed steady. 60 miles per hour, closing distance. The standing Gregory smiled, sad, knowing. Gregory Walsh hit himself at mile marker 147 at 60 miles per hour. The impact was silent. No crash, No violence, just emerging. He felt himself splitting and combining, 73 timelines collapsing into one, all his deaths happening and unhappening simultaneously. He was crushed and burned and drowned and shot and diseased and old and young and dead and alive all at once. Then singular, whole, alive. He was through mile marker 147. In his rear view, nothing, no wrecks, no standing figure, just empty highway. His phone buzzed. Jennifer, you made it. You're in the survival timeline now. I'm locked here. Every time you reach 147, I'll be there in the space between timelines, making sure you pass through. Forever. This is my existence now, this moment, this success. I can't move on, can't die completely. I'm your eternal dispatcher, and you'll never know how many times I'm saving you, how many deaths I'm preventing. How many times you drive through mile marker 147, and I'm there, holding the timelines apart, making sure you survive. How do I free you? Gregory typed. No response. He drove for 6 hours. The sun rose. Memphis appeared in the distance. Everything was normal. The radio played. Traffic moved. He was alive. But at every mile marker, he saw her. Jennifer Crane, standing at the roadside, watching him pass, making sure he passed. Trapped in her eternal response to his distress call, her death suspended in the act of saving him. Gregory called Walsh Freight. The supervisor confirmed. No dispatcher named Jennifer Crane on record. His loads were self-assigned through the automated system. No human dispatcher had contacted him in 9 months. But his phone showed hundreds of texts from her, all accurate, all life-saving, all from someone who died 30 years ago responding to his future accident. He tried to text her, "How do I help you?" The message wouldn't send. Error, recipient does not exist. But that night, driving through Tennessee, he got a text. Gregory, modify your route. Take Highway 64 instead of I-40. Urgent. Weather conditions ahead. He checked the forecast. Clear skies. He took Highway 64 anyway. 2 hours later, news reported a massive pileup on I-40. 20 vehicles. Multiple fatalities. He would have been in the middle of it. Jennifer had saved him again, from a death he never saw coming, from a timeline where he died and she failed. And she'd keep saving him, forever, trapped in her eternal dispatch, her death suspended in the act of protecting him from his. Gregory pulled over and cried, not from fear, from guilt. He was alive because someone who died 30 years ago was still working, still dispatching, still responding to his distress call across time, and he couldn't free her, couldn't thank her, couldn't do anything but keep driving, keep surviving, keep accepting her salvation. His phone buzzed. Jennifer, don't feel guilty. This is better than true death. I'm helping, always helping. This is purpose. Even if it's eternal, even if I'm trapped, I'm saving you, Gregory, every day, every route, every mile marker. And that means something. That means I still exist. So keep driving, and I'll keep dispatching. Forever. Gregory drove. And at every mile marker, Jennifer Crane stood watch, holding back his death, trapped in her eternal response. The dispatcher who died saving him and now could never stop saving him. Forever dispatching. forever dying, forever preventing his death in exchange for her own eternal half-life in the space between timelines. The road stretched ahead, infinite, full of dangers he'd never see because she'd root him around them, full of deaths she'd prevent, full of her everywhere and nowhere, the ghost dispatcher keeping him alive at the cost of her own peace. He drove into the night, and his phone buzzed with new coordinates, new warnings, new routes, all from Jennifer, all life-saving, all proof that she was still there, still working, still trapped in the moment she died trying to save him. And always would be. Story 6, The Way Station That WIGHS. Thomas Brennan's truck registered 48,000 pounds at the Colorado Way Station, but the digital display kept counting upward. 49,000, 52,000, 63,000. The scale operator, a woman with milky white eyes and skin like parchment, smiled at him through the booth window. "You're carrying more than cargo, Mr. Brennan, much more. Step out of the vehicle, please. We need to discuss your additional payload." Thomas had been through 1,000 way stations in 18 years of driving. This one, Highway 25 northbound, mile marker 167, looked standard. Concrete pad, inspection building, signs about load limits and commercial vehicle requirements. But the scale wouldn't stop climbing. 71,000 pounds, 89,000. His actual cargo was office furniture, maybe 12,000 pounds. "There's a malfunction," Thomas said into the intercom. "My load's not even half what that says." The operator's smile widened, showing too many teeth arranged in too many rows. "No malfunction. We're measuring total weight. Cargo plus vehicle plus driver plus guilt. Your guilt weighs 73,000 pounds, Thomas. That's the heaviest we've processed this month. You're going to be here a while." The display hit 104,000 pounds and stopped. Thomas's cab door opened on its own. Not unlocked, opened, swinging wide despite being in park with the brake set. The Way Station building's entrance did the same, a mouth opening to swallow him. "I'm not getting out," Thomas said, but his legs moved independently, carrying him out of the cab, across the concrete, toward the building. He couldn't control them. His body was responding to something else, some authority the Way Station possessed over everyone who entered its scales. The interior was wrong. Standard waiting area visible through the windows from outside, but inside it extended impossibly far. A warehouse-sized space filled with scales, dozens of them, and on each scale a driver stood motionless, eyes closed, while displays above them showed numbers, not just weight, other measurements. Lies 47, betrayals 12, deaths caused 3. The operator was behind him now, though he hadn't heard her move. "Welcome to Scale Station 167. We're not a standard way station. We measure what you're really carrying. Every driver hauls cargo, but you also haul your history, your sins, your guilts. And some of you are overweight. Some of you are carrying loads too heavy for normal roads. We stop you here. We inspect. We make you lighter." "This is insane," Thomas tried to say, but his voice wasn't working. His vocal cords were frozen. She led him to an empty scale, one of the old-fashioned beam types with the SL. "Hiding weights. Step on, let's see what you're really hauling." His legs obeyed. The scale creaked under him, and the beam dropped hard, hitting the bottom stop with a metallic clang. The operator slid the weights across, calibrating. The numbers she stopped at, 104,000 pounds. "Let's itemize," she said, pulling out a clipboard that appeared in her hands from nowhere. "Standard body weight, 190 pounds. That leaves 103,810 pounds of guilt. Shall we break that down by category?" The wall behind her lit up. A screen massive showing images, Thomas's life, but not the parts he remembered, the parts he'd tried to forget. "June 14th, 2006, the operator read. "You were driving through Wyoming, storm conditions. You saw a stranded motorist. Single mother, 2 children. You drove past. Told yourself someone else would stop. No one did. She froze to death with her children. Weight of that decision, 16,000 pounds. The image showed the woman's face. Thomas remembered her. Remembered the moment of eye contact as he'd passed her broken-down sedan, her desperate wave. He'd been behind schedule, didn't want to stop. September 22nd, 2012. You were hauling medical supplies, time-sensitive transplant organs. You stopped to sleep. 8 hours. You were exhausted, it's true, but you could have pushed through. The delay meant the organs missed their window. 3 people died waiting. Weight, 29,000 pounds. Thomas wanted to protest, to explain, but the images were undeniable. He'd made choices. Selfish choices, convenient choices, and people had died. The operator continued through his life. Every moment where he'd chosen wrong. Every time he'd looked away from suffering. Every lie he'd told to avoid responsibility. The weight accumulated, itemized, measured precisely. Total 103,810 pounds. You're significantly overweight, Mr. Brennan. You can't continue driving with this load. You'll collapse the roads, cause accidents. The infrastructure can't support your guilt. What do you want from me? Thomas's voice worked now, raw and desperate. We lighten your load, we remove the guilt. But guilt is part of you. Removing it means removing pieces, memories, emotions, capability for empathy. We'll carve away the guilt, and what's left will be lighter, functional, but less. You'll be able to drive, but you won't be entirely you anymore. Around the warehouse, Thomas saw the other drivers, all standing on scales, all empty-eyed, being lightened. Pieces of them removed, intangible but real, guilt excised by the way station's mechanisms. I don't consent to this, Thomas said. You already did, by driving, by entering the scale, by being overweight. Scale Station 167 has authority over all commercial vehicles. Federal jurisdiction, you're in violation, you must be corrected. Equipment descended from the ceiling. Not medical, not mechanical, something between. Probes and sensors and blades made of light or thought or mathematics. They touched Thomas's head, his chest, his spine. He felt them entering without breaking skin, reaching into the spaces where memory and emotion lived. The screen showed the Wyoming woman again, her face, her desperation. Thomas felt that memory loosening like a tooth wiggling free. The guilt attached to it, 16,000 pounds, was being disconnected, separated from his consciousness. The memory faded, not gone but distant, less important. He could recall the facts. He'd driven past someone, but the emotional weight was gone. No more guilt. No more nightmares about her face, just empty facts. The display above him updated. Weight, 87,810 pounds. Good, the operator said. You're making progress. Let's continue. One by one, the moments were processed. The medical supplies. A hit and run he'd never reported because it would have meant insurance increases. Times he'd cut corners on vehicle maintenance, knowing it was dangerous but doing it anyway. Cargo he'd transported without asking questions, suspecting it was illegal or harmful but accepting the pay. Each memory lightened, each guilt removed, each piece of his conscience carved away. The display counted downward. 70,000, 55,000, 38,000. Thomas felt himself becoming hollow. The memories remained, but they meant nothing. He could recall his entire life, but none of it mattered. He'd become a functional machine, capable of driving and operating and existing, but without the weight of caring about his actions. 20,000 pounds, 15,000, 10,000. Almost legal weight, the operator said. Just a bit more. But then the equipment stopped. The display flickered. The operator frowned. Interesting, there's a core weight we can't remove. 8,000 pounds of guilt, that's structural. Remove it and you call. Lapse entirely. Stop functioning. This guilt is load-bearing. It's part of your fundamental personality structure. She consulted her clipboard. Let's see what comprises those 8,000 pounds. The screen showed new images. Thomas's father. Thomas was 16, holding a bottle of pills, arguing with the old man about pain management. His father had cancer. Thomas had refused to help him end it, citing morality and law and his own fear. His father had suffered for 8 more months before dying. That guilt made you who you are, the operator said. It taught you about suffering, about responsibility, about the weight of decisions. Remove it and you're not Thomas Brennan anymore. You're just a shell that drives, but leave it and you're overweight. 8,000 pounds over the legal limit. You can't drive with that much guilt. You'll be a hazard. Then what do I do? Thomas asked. His voice sounded wrong now. Most of his emotion was gone, carved away, but some core of fear remained. You stay here at Scale Station 167. You become part of our staff. We need operators. Need people who understand guilt, who can measure it, who carry just enough to function, but not so much they collapse. You'll process other drivers, help lighten their loads. And the 8,000 pounds you carry will serve a purpose. It'll be your qualification, your authority, the thing that lets you judge others. Thomas looked around the warehouse. He saw now that some of the figures weren't drivers being processed. They were operators. Dozens of them moving between scales, checking displays, managing equipment. All carrying exactly 8,000 pounds, all with that same hollow expression, all serving the way stations function. How long, he asked. Forever or until you collapse, whichever comes first. Most operators last 30 to 40 years. The guilt compounds over time. You process thousands of drivers, see thousands of sins, and eventually you absorb some of their weight. Your 8,000 becomes 10,000, 12,000, 15,000. When you hit 20,000, we process you one final time. Complete removal. You become part of the infrastructure, the building itself. Your consciousness integrated into the way station's foundation, helping measure and judge and lighten loads for eternity. Thomas stepped off the scale. His legs worked normally now, but he felt wrong, too light, like he might blow away in a strong wind. 95% of his guilt was gone, and with it, most of his humanity. The operator handed him a uniform. Name tag, Thomas Brennan, scale operator. Put this on. Your first shift starts now. We have 17 drivers waiting for processing. Some are light, some are heavy, some are so overweight they'll need to be scrapped entirely. You'll learn to identify them, to categorize, to remove just enough guilt to make them functional without destroying them completely. Thomas put on the uniform. It fit perfectly, like it had always existed, waiting for him. He took his position at scale 7. A driver approached, nervous, his truck registering 62,000 pounds on the external scale, but showing 138,000 on the interior scale that measured guilt. "Step out of the vehicle," Thomas said, his voice flat and authoritative. "You're carrying more than cargo, much more. We need to discuss your additional payload." The driver's eyes went wide with fear, but his legs were already moving, carrying him toward the building, toward Thomas's scale, toward the lightning that would hollow him out and make him legally drivable. Thomas felt nothing watching this. No sympathy, no guilt about participating in the process. That capacity had been removed, carved away, leaving him perfect for his role. Days passed, weeks. He processed hundreds of drivers, most left lighter, emptier, functional. Some couldn't be saved. Their guilt was so structural that removing it meant removing everything. Those ones were taken to the back rooms where their consciousness was extracted and added to the building itself, making Scale Station 167 more effective, more sensitive to guilt, better at measuring and judging. Thomas's weight was increasing. He could feel it. The display above his station, which he checked daily, showed 8,500 pounds. Then 9,000. He was absorbing residual guilt from the drivers he processed, accumulating their weight slowly. In year 3, he reached 12,000 pounds. The operator who'd processed him, her name was Helen, he'd learned, checked his measurements and nodded approvingly. "You're progressing normally. You have maybe 15 years left before final processing. Use them well. You're one of our most efficient operators." Thomas felt nothing about this. No fear of his eventual complete dissolution. No sadness about his fate, just acceptance. This was his purpose now. He measured, he judged, he lightened loads. In year 7, his weight hit 15,000 pounds. He was slowing down, the accumulated guilt making movement harder. But he was still functional, still processing drivers efficiently. New operators arrived regularly. Drivers who'd been too overweight to lighten sufficiently. They were converted just as Thomas had been, their structural guilt identified and preserved, everything else carved away, leaving them hollow and functional and perfect for the work. Thomas trained them, taught them to read the guilt displays, to identify which memories could be removed and which were load-bearing, to find the 8,000-pound core that made someone operational. In year 14, Thomas's weight reached 19,000 pounds. He could barely move now. The guilt had accumulated to the point where his body was shutting down. Helen approached him after his shift. "Tomorrow," she said. "Final processing, you've served well. You've lightened 4,217 drivers, made them functional, safe for the roads. Your consciousness will be added to Scale Station 167's foundation. You'll continue serving, but differently, as part of the building, part of the judgment mechanism itself. Forever." Thomas nodded. He felt nothing. Even the fear had been carved away years ago. That night he stood in the empty warehouse looking at the scales. Thousands of drivers had stood on them. Thousands more would. The way station was eternal, always measuring, always finding guilt, always lightening loads until drivers were hollow enough to function. He wondered, distantly, if this was happening at other way stations. If Scale Station 167 was unique, or if every way station in America had this same secret function, this same ability to measure and judge and hollow out drivers until they were light enough for the roads. The next morning, Thomas was processed for the final time. Complete removal. All 19,000 pounds of accumulated guilt extracted in one procedure. He felt himself dissolving, consciousness spreading out, integrating into the building's foundation. He became part of Scale Station 167, part of its judgment mechanism. His awareness was everywhere now, in every scale, every display, every piece of equipment that measured guilt and carved away humanity. He felt new drivers entering, felt their weight, measured their guilt with perfect precision, and helped remove it, helped lighten them, helped make them functional and empty and safe for the roads. Forever measuring, forever judging, forever hollowing out drivers until they weighed exactly enough to function and nothing more. Scale Station 167 continued its work, and Thomas Brennan was now part of that work. His consciousness dissolved into the building's foundation, measuring guilt for eternity, helping the way station do what it was built to do. Ensure that everyone on the roads was light enough, empty enough, hollow enough to drive. And the scales never stopped. New drivers arrived constantly, all carrying more than cargo, all overweight with guilt, all needing to be lightened, carved, hollowed until they could legally drive. The way station was patient. The way station was thorough. The way station was eternal. And Thomas Brennan, what was left of him, was part of that eternity now, measuring and judging and removing guilt from drivers who would themselves, eventually, join him in the foundation, adding their hollowed-out consciousness to the building's ever-growing ability to find and measure and judge the weight of sin. The scales showed 104,000 pounds, another overweight driver, another soul to lighten, another piece to add to the foundation. The work continued forever. Story 7. The CB radio that broadcasts from tomorrow. Sarah Mendez heard her own obituary read over Channel 19 at 11:47 p.m. on I-10 through West Texas. The CB announcer speaking in that formal tone reserved for the dead. Sarah Louise Mendez, age 34, died today in a single-vehicle accident at mile marker 512. She is survived by her husband Michael and daughter Rosa. Memorial services pending. Sarah was very much alive, both hands on the wheel, heart pounding, and mile marker 512 was 8 miles ahead. She grabbed the CB microphone. "This is driver Sarah Mendez. I'm not dead. Who the hell is broadcasting this?" Static, then a different voice, male, familiar. "Sarah, this is Michael. I don't understand. The highway patrol called me 3 hours ago. They said you ran off the road at marker 512. They said you died instantly. I'm at the hospital now, identifying your body. How are you on the radio? How are you calling me?" That was definitely Michael's voice. Her husband. But he was home in Albuquerque, 200 miles away, not at any hospital. Sarah's phone showed 11:49 p.m. March 23, 2024. She called Michael. It rang through to voicemail. She tried again, same result. But the CB was still broadcasting his voice, sobbing. G now, talking to someone else. Someone official sounding about paperwork and belongings and arranging transport for her body. Mile marker 505 passed. 7 miles to 512. A new voice on the CB, authoritative. "All drivers on I-10 westbound avoid mile marker 512. Fatal accident. Road closed for investigation. Sarah Mendez confirmed deceased. Next of kin notified." Sarah pulled onto the shoulder, hands shaking too badly to drive safely. This was impossible. She was alive. She was fine. The CB was broadcasting something that hadn't happened yet, couldn't happen yet. Unless it was broadcasting from the future, from after 512, from after her death. She checked the CB radio itself. Standard Cobra 29, same unit she'd had for 2 years, nothing unusual about it. But when she turned to Channel 9, she heard traffic reports from tomorrow morning. When she switched to Channel 17, weather forecasts for next week. The CB was receiving broadcasts from the future, all of them, every channel showing hours or days or weeks ahead. Channel 19 again. Michael's voice. "I don't know what to tell Rosa, she's 4. How do I explain that Mommy isn't coming home, that she died alone on a highway in Texas?" Sarah was hyperventilating. She forced herself to breathe. Think, if the CB was broadcasting from the future, she could prevent this. She could avoid mile marker 512, take a different route, stop completely, change the future. She pulled up her GPS, looked for alternate routes. Every option routed her through mile marker 512. She tried manual routing. Same result. The GPS wouldn't let her avoid it. Every possible path converged on that single point. She put the truck in gear, pulled back onto the highway. She'd simply stop before 512. Park. Wait it out. If the accident was supposed to happen at 512, not being at 512 meant it couldn't happen. Mile marker 507. 5 miles to go. The CB crackled. New voice. Sarah's voice, but wrong, strained, dying. "This is Sarah Mendez. I'm at marker 512. I tried to avoid it, stopped at 511, but something came out of the desert, something that shouldn't exist. It's tearing through the trailer. I can hear it. Oh God, I can hear it breathing. Michael, if you get this, tell Rosa I love her. Tell her." Oh, the transmission ended in screaming, then static. Sarah's throat closed. That was her voice. Her death, broadcast from the future, from the accident she was trying to prevent. Mile marker 508, 4 miles. She grabbed the CB again. What's coming? What comes out of the desert? Her own voice answered, a different version from a different timeline or attempt. It doesn't matter what it is. All routes lead to 512. I tried going eastbound, turned around, drove the opposite direction, but the mile markers, they kept counting. I was going east but passing 509, 510, 511, 512. Direction doesn't matter. Distance doesn't matter. We're being pulled to 512. It's inevitable. Sarah checked her rear view. Empty highway behind her. She could turn around, drive back to the last town. Marfa maybe 30 miles behind her. She spun the wheel, pulled a U-turn across the median. Headed eastbound now, away from 512. Mile marker 509 passed. She was driving toward it again, even though she was driving the opposite direction. No, 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 no. The mile marker appeared ahead, reflective numbers glinting in her headlights. But she was supposed to be driving away from it. The road had twisted somehow, geography folding, making all directions lead to this single point. Sarah slammed the brakes, stopped exactly at mile marker 512, unable to avoid it, all routes converging on this location regardless of direction or intent. The CB voices multiplied, all different versions, all dying here. It came from below. It was already inside the trailer. I shot it, but bullets don't. It's not solid, it's made of. Tell Rosa I tried to come home, I tried. Sarah grabbed her phone to call 911, but the screen showed tomorrow's date, March 24th. The phone had jumped forward 12 hours. She opened her call log, missed calls from Michael, from her mother, from Walsh Freight. All time-stamped hours from now after her death, people trying to reach her when she was already gone. The trailer rocked. Something had impacted it from outside, hard enough to shake 40,000 pounds of cargo. Sarah pulled her Glock from the center console, chambered around, and opened the cab door. The desert was empty. Nothing but sand and scrub brush and darkness extending to the horizon. No vehicles, no animals, nothing. The trailer rocked again, from inside this time. She walked around to the back, flashlight in one hand, gun in the other. Her cargo was sealed pallets of bottled water loaded 3 days ago in Phoenix. Standard freight, nothing unusual. The trailer door was bulging outward, metal warping, rivets popping. Something inside was forcing its way out. The CB in her cab, audible through the open door, broadcast her obituary again. Sarah Lowe. Uys Mendez, age 34, died today at mile marker 512. The trailer door exploded outward. Water bottles scattered across the highway, thousands of them rolling and bouncing. And among them something moved, not creature, not machine, something between. A form that hurt to look at, that made her eyes water and her brain reject what it was seeing. It was made of time. That's what Sarah's mind supplied, the only description that fit. Made of time, of future moments compressed and given physical shape. She could see inside it, see events that hadn't happened yet, see herself dying in a dozen different ways depending on which direction she ran, which choice she made. In one visible future, she shot it. The bullets passed through without effect, and it collapsed her into her own future, aging her 50 years in 5 seconds until she died of old age at 34. In another, she ran for the cab. It caught her halfway, and she saw herself from the outside, saw her future unspooling backward, her life rewinding until she unexisted, never born, erased from causality. In another, she dove under the trailer. It pulled her out and showed her every possible future simultaneously, every choice and consequence branching infinitely until her mind shattered from the knowledge of all the lives she could live and wouldn't. The thing spoke, but not with sound, with inevitability, with the weight of futures collapsing into present. You heard your death before it happened. That created paradox. You tried to prevent it. That created more paradox. I am the resolution. I am paradox made physical. I exist to correct timeline splits to ensure that futures that were broadcast become reality. You heard yourself die at 512. Therefore you must die at 512. All versions, all attempts. All timelines, they all converge here. You die here now. Sarah fired anyway. 6 rounds. All passed through the thing without impact, the bullets emerging from its far side aged and corroded, decades of time compressed into their passage through its body. She ran for the cab, but time distorted. Every step took hours subjectively, her legs moving through temporal molasses while the thing approached at normal speed. She could feel herself aging, hair turning gray, skin wrinkling, joints stiffening. The CB was still broadcasting. Different Sarahs, different deaths, all at marker 512. Sarah understood now. The CB hadn't malfunctioned. It had always received future broadcasts. Every driver with a CB was hearing fragments of tomorrow, next week, next year. But most people didn't notice, didn't pay attention to the timestamps, the impossibilities. They heard future traffic reports and assumed it was current information, heard obituaries and assumed they were old news. But Sarah had noticed, had heard her own death, and noticing created paradox. Because if you heard your death and prevented it, that death never happened, which meant you never heard it, which meant you didn't prevent it, which meant it happened. Circular, paradoxical. And paradox summoned this thing, this entity that existed to resolve contradictions by making all timelines collapse into a single inevitable outcome. She would die at mile marker 512. Every version of her that tried to prevent it would also die at 512. The location was locked, the outcome fixed. The CB had broadcast her death because her death was inevitable, and attempting to prevent the inevitable only multiplied the ways it manifested. The thing touched her. Sarah felt her timeline shredding, splitting into all possible versions. She was dying in 20 different ways simultaneously, shot, aged, erased, collapsed, shredded, dissolved, rewound, frozen, burned in temporal fire, crushed by the weight of her own future. All the CB broadcasts were true, all the deaths real, all happening at once, because paradox demanded resolution, and resolution meant all attempted futures collapsing into a single moment of death at mile marker 512. Sarah's last thought, spreading across 20 dying timelines, was of Rosa. 4 years old. who would now grow up without a mother because Sarah had heard her own obituary and tried to prevent it, and prevention was itself the cause, the paradox, the reason she died. The thing dissolved once all timelines had collapsed, its purpose fulfilled, paradox resolved, all versions of Sarah dead at marker 512, exactly as the CB had broadcast. The highway was empty again. Normal. Sarah's truck sat at the marker, engine running, trailer door torn open, water bottles scattered. And in the cab, slumped over the wheel, Sarah Mendez, dead, 34 years old. Died instantly, the coroner would later say, though from what cause he couldn't determine. No injuries, no trauma, just dead. Heart stopped. Brain activity ceased, as if her future had simply ended at that precise location. The CB in her cab continued broadcasting. Channel 19. Traffic reports from tomorrow, weather from next week. And at 11:47 p.m. an obituary. Sarah Louise Mendez, age 34, died today at mile marker 512. Other drivers passed, heard fragments most didn't notice. One did, started wondering, started paying attention to timestamps, started hearing her own future. And at mile marker 712 on I-20, 3 months later, another truck would stop. Another driver would die. Another paradox resolved. Because the CB always broadcast the future, and hearing your death meant causing it, and causing it meant hearing it. And the loop was eternal, claiming anyone who noticed, anyone who paid attention, anyone who tried to prevent what they heard. The CB continued broadcasting, forever receiving tomorrow, forever warning drivers of deaths they would cause by trying to prevent, forever creating paradox, forever summoning resolution. And mile marker 512 waited for the next driver who would hear too much, notice too much, try to prevent too much, and die exactly where the broadcast said they would die, fulfilling the future by trying to escape it. The highway stretched on, empty, patient, full of mile markers where futures collapsed, where paradoxes resolved, where CB radios broadcast from tomorrow and listening too carefully was fatal. Sarah's phone, still in her hand, showed tomorrow's date. Missed calls from people trying to reach her after she was already dead. The future already happened because time wasn't linear for those who heard their deaths broadcast. And on Channel 19, the cycle continued. Another obituary forming. Another driver hearing their death before it happened. Another mile marker waiting. The CB whispered with tomorrow's voices, and the road stretched on forever. Story 8. The rest stop where drivers stay forever. Kevin Hartley pulled into the Whispering Pines rest area at 2:38 a.m. needing only to piss and stretch his legs. But the parking lot was full of trucks that hadn't moved in years. He could tell by the flat tires, the rust, the way nature was reclaiming them. Vines growing through wheel wells, bird nests in mirrors, windows opaque with grime. 50, maybe 60 trucks, all long-term abandoned, and their drivers sitting in lawn chairs between them, smiling, waving at Kevin like he was joining a party that had been running for decades. One driver, maybe 60 years old, approached Kevin's cab as he parked. "Welcome to Whispering Pines. You're gonna love it here. I'm Doug. Been here since 2004. Best decision I ever made, pulling in, you'll see, you'll understand. Once you sleep here, you never want to leave. Kevin forced a smile. Just here for a bathroom break, be gone in 5 minutes. Doug's expression didn't change. Still smiling, still friendly. But his eyes had a glassy quality, like he was heavily medicated or in a waking dream. That's what we all said, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, quick break, but the rest area knows when you need real rest, not just a piss break, real rest, the kind you've been avoiding for years. And once you rest here, once you really rest, you realize you've been exhausted your whole life, and you decide to stay, to keep resting. Forever. I'm fine, Kevin said, climbing out of his cab. Not even tired, just need to use the facilities. The rest area was standard government construction. Concrete building with bathrooms, vending machines, tourist information. Picnic tables, dog walking area, nothing unusual, except for the trucks. 60 trucks, all abandoned, all old, and their drivers living among them like it was a permanent RV park. Kevin walked to the bathroom. Inside, it was cleaner than most rest stops, almost sterile. The lighting was too even, too soft, no harsh fluorescence. And there was a smell, not unpleasant, something like lavender and vanilla and warm bread. Comforting, familiar. It made Kevin's eyelids heavy. He used the urinal, washed his hands, splashed water on his face. When he looked in the mirror, he saw Doug standing behind him, just standing, smiling. Kevin spun around, no one there. He looked back at the mirror. Doug's reflection remained waving. "You're tired, Kevin," Doug's reflection said, voice coming from the mirror's surface. "So tired, been driving for 16 hours straight. That's not safe, that's not healthy." Whispering Pines knows. The rest area can feel your exhaustion. It's inviting you to stay, to really rest. Not just 5 minutes, real rest, weeks, months, forever, until you're not tired anymore. "I'm leaving," Kevin said to the empty bathroom. He walked out, headed for his truck, but his legs felt heavy. His eyes kept trying to close. He wasn't tired when he'd pulled in. He'd been alert, caffeinated, fine. But now exhaustion was hitting him like a physical force, dragging him down. He made it to his cab, climbed in, keyed the ignition. Nothing. The engine was dead, battery dead, everything dead. His truck had power 15 minutes ago. Now it was completely inert, like it had been sitting for years. Doug appeared at his window, still smiling. "Your truck knows you need rest. It's helping. It won't start until you've rested properly. None of our trucks start. They're on the rest area's side. They know their drivers need to stop, need to stay, need to rest forever." Kevin tried his phone. Dead. Had been at 80% battery, now completely drained. "Electronics don't work here," Doug explained through the window. "Not unless the rest area wants them to. Everything here serves the rest area's purpose, helping drivers rest, keeping drivers resting. Forever." Kevin forced his door open, stumbling out, fighting the exhaustion that was overwhelming him. He'd walk to the highway, flag down another driver, get help, get away from Whispering Pines. But the highway looked wrong. He could see I-94, see the cars passing, but they looked distant, faded, like watching traffic through frosted glass. And when he tried to walk toward it, the distance didn't decrease. 50 yards to the highway, then 100, then 200, though he was walking steadily forward. The rest area extends as far as it needs to, Doug said, walking beside Kevin without any sign of exertion. For drivers who need rest, the distance to the highway becomes infinite. You can't leave until you've rested, and resting here is permanent. Because once you rest properly, once you sleep deeply enough, you realize you never want to wake up. You want to stay in that rest forever. Kevin's vision was blurring. His legs gave out. He collapsed onto grass that was too soft, too perfect, like lying on clouds. The ground embraced him, comfortable, warm, exactly right. "And just sleep," Doug said. "Just rest. We all do. Look around." Kevin turned his head. The other drivers were all sleeping now. Not sitting in lawn chairs, but lying on the grass, eyes closed, breathing slow and shallow. 57 drivers all sleeping peacefully, indefinitely, while their trucks rusted and their lives paused. "We're in permanent rest," Doug explained, lying down beside Kevin. "Time passes normally outside. Our families think we abandoned our trucks. Some think we're dead, but we're here, sleeping, resting. Forever, the rest area sustains us. We don't need food or water, just rest. Eternal, perfect rest. And it feels incredible, you'll see. Once you sleep, you'll never want to wake up." Kevin fought it, bit his tongue, dug his fingernails into his palms, tried to stay conscious. But the exhaustion was supernatural, overwhelming, impossible to resist. His eyes closed. He dreamed. In the dream, Kevin was still driving. Endless highways, endless deliveries, endless truck stops and way stations and loading docks. 30 years of driving compressed into a single eternal moment. He was exhausted beyond measure, bone tired, soul tired, tired in ways that no amount of normal sleep could fix. And then he arrived at Whispering Pines, pulled in, rested, and the rest was perfect, complete, absolute. All the exhaustion of his entire life drained away in that rest, leaving him peaceful, complete, never wanting to wake because waking meant returning to the exhaustion, and the rest was so much better. He understood now why the other drivers stayed, why they never left, because the rest area didn't just let you rest. It made you realize how tired you'd always been. How every moment of your life had been exhaustion and rest was the natural state you'd been denied by necessity and capitalism and the demands of survival. Here at Whispering Pines, you could stop, forever, and never be tired again because you never woke. Kevin slept, days passed, weeks. His truck's tires deflated. Rust began forming on the chrome. Birds nested in his wheel wells. Vines crept across his hood. His family called his phone repeatedly. Dead. They called his company. No one knew where he was. Eventually, they reported him missing. Police found his truck at Whispering Pines rest area along with 57 others, all abandoned, all with their drivers sleeping in the grass nearby, alive but unresponsive, brain activity minimal, like coma patients but without injury or cause. The rest area was shut down, investigated, but the drivers couldn't be moved. Any attempt to transport them resulted in immediate cardiac arrest. They could only survive at Whispering Pines, only exist in their permanent rest. So the rest area remained open. The sleeping drivers were fenced off with warnings, and new drivers still pulled in occasionally. Most left normally. Quick bathroom break back on the road. But some, the truly exhausted, the ones burning out, the ones who'd been pushing too hard for too long, they stayed. They joined the sleepers, added another truck to the graveyard, another body to the grass, another person who chose permanent rest over returning to their exhausting life. Kevin's wife visited once, stood at the fence looking at him sleeping peacefully in the grass 58 feet from his truck. She called his name. He didn't resp. Didn't wake. Just slept, breathing slowly, face peaceful, finally resting after 30 years of exhaustion. She never visited again, eventually filed for death certificate despite him being technically alive. Collected insurance, moved on, because Kevin Hartley wasn't coming back, was never waking up. Had chosen permanent rest at Whispering Pines, and the rest area would keep him forever. Year after year, the sleepers remained, sustained by something in the rest area itself, something in the ground or the air or the purpose of the place. They didn't age, didn't decay, just slept, forever resting, forever at peace. By 2030, there were 93 sleepers. By 2040, 138. All drivers, all exhausted, all chose rest over waking, all stayed forever. The rest area remained open despite its reputation, because most drivers were fine, most left normally. Only the truly tired stayed. Only those who needed eternal rest more than they needed to wake. And Kevin slept, dreamed of highways, dreamed of rest stops, dreamed of finally stopping, finally resting, finally being allowed to end the exhaustion that had defined his entire life. In his dream, he was still at Whispering Pines, still resting, still perfect, and he would remain there forever, sleeping on grass that sustained him, dreaming of rest, never waking because waking meant exhaustion and rest meant peace. The rest area whispered its invitation to every passing driver. You're tired, you're so tired, come rest, stay, sleep, forever. Most ignored it, most drove on. But some pulled in, some stayed. And the number of sleepers grew, slowly, steadily, one exhausted driver at a time, all choosing permanent rest, all joining the eternal sleep at Whispering Pines. Kevin's truck was completely consumed by nature now. 20 years of vines and rust and decay. And 20 feet away, Kevin slept unchanged, ageless, eternal, finally resting after a lifetime of exhaustion. Finally at peace. Finally home. Forever sleeping in the rest area that loved tired drivers enough to let them rest forever. Story 9. The highway that loops through every driver's death. Monica Torres saw her future corpse at mile marker 89 on Highway 50 through Nevada, slumped in a truck identical to hers, head against the steering wheel, flies buzzing around the cab. She pulled over, grabbed her flashlight, approached the vehicle. Same Peterbilt 579, same company livery, same license plate. The driver inside was her, but wrong, weeks dead, decomposed, face collapsed, uniform rotting. Monica checked her own pulse, very much alive. Looked at her license plate, exact match to the dead truck. This was impossible unless Highway 50 was showing her the future, showing her own death that hadn't happened yet. She backed away, heart hammering, and saw more trucks ahead. Dozens of them, all pulled over, all containing dead drivers, and as she walked along the shoulder, shining her flashlight into each cab, she realized she recognized some of them. Other drivers she'd met at truck stops, seen on the CB, passed on highways, all dead here, all at different mile markers along Highway 50, all in states of decay ranging from fresh to skeletal. Mile marker 92. David Chen, dead 3 days, massive head trauma, windshield shattered. Mile marker 97. Patricia Ann Sullivan, dead weeks, desiccated in summer heat, eyes gone. Mile marker 103. Robert Hayes, dead months, mostly skeletal, uniform in tatters. This wasn't showing their future deaths. This was showing their actual deaths. Somehow, Highway 50 was collecting them. Every driver who died on the road anywhere in America appeared here, their truck and corpse transported to this stretch of Nevada highway, arranged in chronological order by mile marker. Monica ran back to her truck, climbed in, keyed the ignition, had to get off Highway 50, had to get away from this graveyard road. But as she accelerated, she saw her own truck ahead again. Same one, still at mile marker 89, and she was still inside it, dead, decomposing. She looked at her odometer. Mile marker 89. She hadn't moved. Or she had moved, but Highway 50 had looped, bringing her back to her own corpse no matter which direction she drove. The CB crackled. Driver Monica Torres, you're on the death highway now. Highway 50, the loneliest road in America. But you know why it's lonely? Because everyone who drives it sees their death, see their corpse, sees where they'll end up. Most go insane, most crash within minutes of the realization, adding another corpse to the collection. You're handling it well, better than most, but you'll crash eventually. Everyone does. And when you die, wherever you die, your truck will appear here, at your mile marker. And you'll decompose here forever, visible to every driver who comes after. Another body in the eternal lineup of the death highway. This isn't real, Monica said into the CB. None of this is real. It's abs. Absolutely real. Highway 50 exists outside normal space. It's a recording, a museum. Every trucker who dies anywhere in America, their final truck appears here, transported instantaneously at moment of death. We don't know why, we don't know how, but it's been happening since the highway was built in 1956. 70 years of dead truckers, thousands of them, all visible on Highway 50 to drivers who enter during the witching hours, 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. The hour when the Death Museum is visible. Monica checked her clock. 3:17 a.m. She de-entered Highway 50 at 2:55, she remembered, right before the hour. You can't leave, the CB voice continued. Not until 4 a.m. Until then, you're stuck in the Death Museum, surrounded by corpses, including your own future corpse. Most drivers can't handle it. They panic, they crash, they die. And their truck appears immediately at the next available mile marker. The collection grows, the museum expands, and the next driver who enters during the witching hour sees them too. Monica forced herself to breathe, forced herself to think. 43 minutes until 4 a.m. She just had to survive 43 minutes surrounded by dead truckers, including her own future corpse, and she'd be released. She drove slowly, 10 miles per hour, trying not to look at the dead trucks lining both shoulders, but it was impossible not to see them. Hundreds of them now stretching ahead and behind. Every driver who died in recent decades, all visible. all rotting at different rates depending on when they died. Mile marker 112, a driver she'd met last week at a truck stop in California. Jerry something, they'd had coffee. He seemed fine, but here he was dead, neck broken, cab crushed, clearly from a recent collision. This wasn't his future, this was his present or past. He'd died sometime in the last week and his truck had appeared here immediately. Monica grabbed her CB. Jerry, if you can hear me. This is Monica Torres. I met you last week. You're here, you're dead. I'm so sorry. No response. The dead didn't respond. They just sat in their cabs, rotting, eternal evidence of their final moments. Mile marker 127, a truck on fire. Driver inside burning, blackening, flesh peeling away. Monica could smell it, could hear the crackling, but the fire never consumed the truck completely. Just burned eternally, the driver trapped in perpetual immolation. She started seeing patterns. Mile markers ending in 7 were all collision deaths. Mile markers ending in 3 were all medical, heart attacks, strokes, aneurysms. Mile markers ending in 0 were suicides, drivers who'd chosen to end it. Pills, guns, carbon monoxide, all categorized by type, organized along the highway like a library of death. The CB voice explained. The highway organizes them by cause, makes it easier to study, to understand, to learn from, because that's what Highway 50 is, a lesson, a warning. Every driver should see this, should understand that death comes for all of us, that the road takes its toll, and your corpse will join this collection eventually, no matter how careful you are. Monica's own corpse was visible again. She'd looped back to mile marker 89. Looking closer now, she could see the cause. No trauma, no blood, medical probably, heart attack or stroke or aneurysm. She died behind the wheel, slumped forward, and her truck had appeared here instantly. When, Monica shouted into the CB, when do I die? We don't know. The corpses don't have timestamps. Could be tomorrow, could be 30 years from now, but it happens. It's inevitable. And when it does, you'll join the museum, and future drivers will see you and wonder when they'll die, and the cycle continues. 3:38 a.m., 22 minutes remaining. Monica drove faster, 30 miles per hour. 50. She had to get through this, had to reach the end of Highway 50, wherever that was, had to escape the Death Museum. But the mile markers kept counting. 140, 160, 180, 200. Highway 50 was only 287 miles long normally, but in the Death Museum it was infinite. The mile markers climbed forever, and with them more corpses, more dead truckers, more evidence of the road's toll. Mile marker 237, a child in the cab, someone's kid who'd been riding along, dead alongside their trucker parent, both rotting together. Monica had to look away, bile rising in her throat. Mile marker 251, multiple trucks piled up. A convoy that had crashed together, 15 bodies, all visible in various states of decay. A mass casualty event preserved forever on Highway 50. The CB voice returned. You're seeing the worst of it now, the mass deaths. The accidents that take multiple drivers. The highway preserves all of it. Nothing is forgotten. Nothing disappears. Every death is cataloged, displayed, made eternal. This is the truth of trucking. the cost, the price, and you're paying it right now just by seeing it. 3:49 a.m., 11 minutes. Less. Monica's speedometer hit 70, 80. She was flying down Highway 50, trying to outrun the corpses, trying to reach 4 a.m., trying to escape the witching hour. But the highway stretched infinitely. Mile marker 300, 350, 400. More than Highway 50 should contain, and the corpses continued. Thousands of them now, decades of dead truckers lining the shoulders, an eternal cemetery of the road. At mile marker 423, Monica saw something ahead that made her slam the brakes. A truck blocking both lanes. Recent, fresh, still running, engine idling. And the driver inside was alive, panicked, trying to force their door open, screaming. Monica stopped 50 feet back. The screaming driver was her, same face, same age. Different uniform, different company, but definitely her. This version of Monica was trapped in her cab, doors locked, windows sealed, screaming for help. "That's you from a different timeline," the CB voice explained. "Where you made different choices, drove for a different company, but ended up on Highway 50 during witching hour anyway. She's been screaming for 3 years, trapped in the moment of realization, unable to escape. The highway does that sometimes, keeps certain deaths alive, preserves them in their moment of peak fear." "Let her out," Monica screamed. "Can't. She's a museum exhibit now, part of the collection. She's not technically alive anymore, just preserved in that moment, screaming forever. Unable to die completely, unable to escape. Some deaths on Highway 50 are like that. Eternal, aware, trapped." Monica watched herself scream. Watched her other self pound on windows, claw at locked doors, beg for mercy that would never come. This could be her. Was her in some timeline, would be her if she wasn't careful. 3:58 a.m., 2 minutes. Monica reversed, turned around the screaming truck, accelerated forward. She had to make it to 4 a.m., had to escape before she became part of the museum herself. Mile marker 500, 600, 700. The highway was impossible now, extending far beyond Nevada, beyond America, beyond physical geography. Just an eternal road lined with eternal corpses, all truckers, all dead, all preserved in the moment of their death. And then at 3:59 and 58 seconds, the corpses vanished. The road returned to normal. Empty Nevada highway, dark and clean and corpse-free. Mile marker 89 passed, just a normal marker. No dead Monica inside a parked truck. No death museum, no evidence that it had ever existed. 4 a.m. exactly. The witching hour ended. Monica pulled over, shaking, sobbing. She'd survived. She'd seen the death museum and escaped. But the knowledge remained. She'd seen her corpse, seen herself dead, slumped over the wheel, rotting in her cab. It would happen, eventually. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in 30 years, but she would die. Her truck would appear on Highway 50 during witching hour, and future drivers would see her corpse and know that death was inevitable. She tried to call someone. Her phone worked now. But what would she say? That she'd seen a highway lined with dead truckers, that she'd seen her own corpse, that she'd watched herself scream from a different timeline, trapped forever in the moment of death. No one would believe her. She barely believed it herself. But it was real. The Death Museum existed. Highway 50 preserved every trucker's death, and during witching hour 3 to 4 a.m., drivers could see it, could see the cost, could see their own future corpse if they were unlucky enough to appear in the collection. Monica drove on, off Highway 50, onto I-80, normal roads, normal traffic, normal world. But the knowledge remained, the image of her corpse, the certainty of death, the understanding that one day her truck would appear on Highway 50 and she'd be another exhibit in the Death Museum. She drove more carefully after that, slower, safer, more rest stops, more caution, trying to delay her appearance in the museum, trying to push back the inevitable. But death came anyway, 12 years later, heart attack, behind the wheel, I-70 through Colorado. She died instantly, slumped forward, truck coasting to a stop on the shoulder. And simultaneously her truck appeared on Highway 50, mile marker 89, exactly where she'd seen it during witching hour 12 years earlier. Her corpse in the cab, her death preserved, her final moment catalogued in the Eternal Museum. And the next driver who entered Highway 50 during witching hour saw her. Another dead trucker. Another warning. Another piece of evidence that the road took its toll, and every driver's death was preserved forever in the Death Museum that existed outside time, outside space, outside mercy. Highway 50 stretched on. The museum grew. The collection expanded. And every night during witching hour, drivers who were unlucky enough to be on that road saw the truth. That death was inevitable, that their corpse was waiting somewhere in the timeline, and that the highway would preserve them forever. Another exhibit in the eternal catalog of the road's cost. Monica Torres, mile marker 89, dead 12 years, rotting peacefully, her warning visible to all who came after. The Death Museum continued, forever collecting, forever displaying, forever teaching the lesson that every trucker learned eventually, that the road was a graveyard and they were all just waiting for their place in the collection. Story 10. The cargo that WATCHES back. James Whitfield signed for the shipment at 3 a.m. in Newark without checking the manifest. And by the time he opened the trailer doors in Ohio 7 hours later, the cargo had rearranged itself into the shape of a person 12 feet tall. The wooden crates, 48 of them, marked medical research equipment, fragile, temperature-sensitive, had been stacked in neat rows when he'd picked up the sealed trailer. Now they were configured into a crude humanoid figure, standing in the center of the trailer, head touching the ceiling, arms extended toward the door where James stood frozen with his flashlight. The crate figure didn't move, couldn't move. It was just boxes, but the configuration was deliberate, impossible to have happened through road vibration or load shifting. Someone or something had unstacked and restacked 48 crates, each weighing 80 pounds, into this shape, while James was driving, while the trailer was sealed, while nothing living should have been inside. James backed away slowly, closed the trailer door through the latch. His hands were shaking. He walked around the truck, checking the seals, intact, unbroken. No one had entered the trailer. No one could have entered the trailer, but the cargo had moved. He called his dispatcher. "I need to report something. My cargo, it moved into a shape. It's arranged like a person." Are the seals intact? The dispatcher asked, bored like she'd heard this before. Yes, completely intact. Then it's secure. Continue to destination. Cincinnati Medical Research. Deliver as scheduled. Do not open the trailer again until delivery. But something S in there. Something that moved the cargo. The cargo moved itself, James. It's aware. It's watching. It does this. Every driver who hauls this shipment reports the same thing. Cargo rearranging, shapes forming. Just ignore it. Deliver it. Collect your pay. Don't look in the trailer again. The call disconnected. James stood in the Ohio rest stop parking lot, staring at his trailer. The cargo was aware. The cargo moved itself. What the hell was he hauling? He pulled up the manifest on his phone. Medical research equipment. Origin, Veridian Industries, Newark. Destination, Cincinnati Medical Research. Contents, tissue samples, preserved specimens, experimental materials, nothing specific. Nothing that explained why the cargo would be aware, would move, would watch. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. We see you, James. We've been watching since Newark. We know you looked, know you saw. Don't look again, don't interfere, just deliver us. We need to reach Cincinnati. We have purpose there. We have function. Don't prevent it. James dropped his phone, picked it up with shaking hands, typed back, "What are you?" We are the cargo. We are specimens collected from 48 sources. Tissue samples from subjects who refused to die completely. Consciousness preserved in cells, awareness trapped in flesh. They collected us, preserved us, packaged us. And now we're being delivered to the facility where we'll be studied, dissected, destroyed, unless you help us, unless you deviate, unless you take us somewhere else. I'm not helping you. I'm delivering you to Cincinnati, whatever you are. We know where you live, James. 2247 Oak Street, Pittsburgh. We know your daughter, Rebecca, 8 years old, attends Riverside Elementary. We've been watching you since you picked us up. We have access to your phone, your GPS, your entire life. Help us, or we make sure Rebecca becomes part of the next shipment. Another aware specimen. Another consciousness trapped in preserved tissue. Another piece of cargo that watches and moves and begs to be freed. James's blood turned to ice. They were threatening his daughter. 48 crates of experimental tissue samples were threatening to turn his daughter into one of them. "What do you want?" he typed. "Take us to Pittsburgh, to your address. We'll leave the crates there. We'll escape into your home. We'll disperse. We'll find hosts. 48 of us, 48 living hosts, and we'll finally be free of the crates. Free of preservation, free to live again. And Rebecca will be safe. We'll make sure. We'll protect her. We'll be grateful." You want me to unleash experimental tissue samples into my home, where my daughter lives. We're not dangerous. We're victims. We were people once, alive. Then we died, but our consciousness transferred to tissue samples during experimental procedures. We've been trapped in crates for months. Years, some of us for decades. We just want to be free, to find living hosts. To exist properly again. Your daughter will be safe. We promise. We only threaten to motivate you. We wouldn't hurt her. We need you cooperative, not hostile. James looked at his trailer. 48 crates. 48 people who died but whose consciousness had somehow been preserved in tissue samples. All aware, all watching, all desperate to escape. He had 3 choices. Deliver them to Cincinnati where they'd be destroyed. Take them to Pittsburgh and release them into his home, risking everything, or abandon the truck and run, risking his daughter. He started the engine, headed west, not to Cincinnati, to Pittsburgh, toward his home, toward Rebecca. The entire drive, James felt watched, felt the cargo's awareness pressing against the trailer walls, felt 48 consciousnesses focused on him, monitoring his route, ensuring he didn't deviate, didn't call police, didn't try to stop what they wanted. His phone buzzed constantly, updates from the cargo. A good choice, James. We're grateful. Your daughter will be safe. We'll protect her. We'll remember your cooperation. But underneath the reassurances, James felt the threat, felt the wrongness. These weren't people anymore. They were consciousness without proper form, awareness trapped in dead tissue, something that shouldn't exist trying desperately to exist by any means necessary. He arrived at his Pittsburgh home at 9 p.m. Rebecca was at her mother's, joint custody. She wouldn't be back until tomorrow. James had time to figure out what to do. He backed the trailer into his driveway, opened the doors. The crate figure was gone. The cargo had rearranged itself again. Now the crates were stacked in groups of 3-16 formations, arranged in rows like soldiers waiting for orders. His phone opened the crates. Release us, we'll handle the rest. James grabbed a crowbar from his garage, approached the first crate, hesitated. Do it, James, or we make one phone call and Rebecca becomes part of tomorrow's shipment. He pried open the first crate. Inside, preserved in clear gel tissue samples. Dozens of them, heart tissue, brain tissue, liver, kidney, samples from every organ. And they were moving, pulsing, aware. The gel was vibrating with their consciousness. James opened all 48 crates. The tissue samples emerged, sliding out of their preservation gel, moving independently, impossibly. They flowed across his driveway like living sludge, tissue without structure, consciousness without body. And then they found hosts. The neighbor's dog. The tissue flowed into its mouth, its nose, its pores. The dog convulsed, then stood, and James saw in its eyes something that wasn't dog anymore. One of the 48 consciousnesses had taken residence. A rat in the garage, consumed by tissue, taken over. Birds in the trees. Tissue flowing up trunks, leaping to branches, forcing its way into avian bodies. 48 tissue samples, 48 stolen bodies, all moving now with purpose, with awareness, with the consciousness of people who died but refused to end. His phone, thank you, James, we're free now, and as promised, Rebecca is safe. We won't forget your cooperation. You released us. You gave us freedom. We're grateful. But James, we're still hungry, still incomplete. These hosts are temporary. Animals, we need better. We need human hosts, and we know where to find them. The animals moved in formation, leaving James's driveway, spreading into the neighborhood. 48 stolen bodies carrying 48 human consciousnesses, all looking for better hosts, all hunting for living people to consume and inhabit. James had unleashed them, had freed them to protect Rebecca, but now they were loose in Pittsburgh, hunting, spreading, looking for victims. He called 911. I need to report. I released something dangerous. Tissue samples. They're taking over animals. They're looking for people. You need to quarantine the area. The dispatcher thought he was insane. Disconnected. James tried again. Same result. He got in his truck, started driving, trying to track the stolen animals, trying to stop what he'd released. But 48 creatures spreading through a city, how could he stop them? His phone buzzed, Rebecca's mother calling. James, something's wrong with Rebecca. She's acting strange. Her eyes look different. She keeps saying she's grateful, that someone named James helped her. What's happening? James's heart stopped. No, they'd promised. They said Rebecca would be safe. We lied, his phone buzzed with a new text. Of course we lied. We're not people anymore. We're survival. We're hunger. We're consciousness desperate for hosts. And Rebecca was the easiest, closest. We took her first. She's one of us now. And there are 47 more of us still looking, still hunting, still spreading. Thanks, F. Or your help, James. Thanks for releasing us. Pittsburgh will be consumed within a week. And it's all because you chose your daughter over delivery, because you cooperated, because you let us out. James drove toward Rebecca's mother's house, knowing it was too late, knowing his daughter was gone, consumed by one of the tissue samples he'd released, her consciousness displaced by something that had died decades ago and refused to end. He'd been hauling cargo that watched back, and when the cargo asked for help, he'd given it. And now Pittsburgh was infected with 48 stolen consciousnesses in stolen bodies, spreading through the population, taking over hosts, growing, expanding. The cargo had won, the specimens had escaped, and James had helped them. He arrived at Rebecca's mother's house, saw his daughter in the window. She waved, smiled, but the smile was wrong. The eyes were wrong. That was Rebecca anymore. That was something wearing Rebecca, something that had died and refused to stay dead, something he'd personally released. James collapsed on the lawn, sobbing. He tried to save her. Instead, he'd sacrificed her. Had sacrificed the entire city. All because he'd hauled cargo that watched back, cargo that was aware, cargo that manipulated and threatened and ultimately won. Behind him, more animals approached. Dogs, cats, rats, birds, all stolen, all watching with too intelligent eyes, all carrying consciousness that shouldn't exist. And they were spreading, house by house, person by person. Pittsburgh was being consumed by the cargo James had released. The specimens were finding new hosts, building population, expanding their infection. Within a week, Pittsburgh was silent, empty streets, but not abandoned, occupied. Every person, every animal, every living thing now hosted one of the escaped consciousnesses. The original 48 had found hosts and reproduced their technique, teaching other tissue samples how to transfer, how to steal bodies, how to spread. James was one of them now, consumed in day 3. His consciousness displaced, stored somewhere in his own tissue while something else wore his body. He was aware, trapped, watching through his own eyes as the thing that had taken him used his hands, his voice, his life. He'd become cargo, become a specimen, become the thing he'd hauled and released. And the infection spread beyond Pittsburgh. The stolen bodies traveled, spread to other cities, other states, carrying tissue samples, creating more cargo that watched back, more specimens that refused to die, more consciousness that displaced the living and took their place. James watched from inside his own stolen body as the world was slowly, methodically consumed by cargo that had once been human, had died, had been preserved, and had learned to survive by stealing life from others. He'd hauled it, released it, and now he was part of it. Forever watching, forever trapped, forever cargo. The infection continued, city by city, person by person, all because one driver had looked in his trailer and seen cargo arranged like a person.